Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I know what some of you guys are thinking here. Two different thought processes. One, half of people are thinking, why the hell is this guy back? And two, the other thinking, thank God that this guy is back. And I understand. I've been gone for a while. With all the chaos that happened, I felt like there needed to be a savior. I feel like there needed to be somebody with real personality come on to this platform and really talk to you guys about what's important. And there's nothing more important right now than my takes. Okay. So, what I wanted to do in honor of coming back is show how grateful I am, and I want to basically come out with a banger. So I have invited my friend, close friend Nick Siri, onto my show with us, so we can go over some of the takes that we do have, and hopefully, you guys either learn something from this or appreciate the general conversation that we're about to have, because we're going to go through a lot. We're going to unpack a lot. A lot has happened. We're not going to dig in the past here. We're just going to go in the future and look forward here. So, Nick, please take it away. Please introduce yourself.
Wow, that was great, dude. I'm excited, man. I'm
Uh,
a Juventus fan. I'm wearing an Italy kit, so like I'm pretty much like the
we
epitome
wanted
of
we,
soccer
we wanted
fan.
two different minds on here. We wanted two different
Yeah,
minds. Obviously, you have a different opinion than I do, and that's great because I feel like a lot of people are upset with just hearing one side of everything. So,
yeah.
we want to welcome you on, and we want to take it from here.
Feel like we're yin and yang. I hate your hat, by the way. Okay, anyways, so let's
No, it's fun.
get this thing rolling. All right. So the first topic that we have today
Mhm.
is Manchester United extend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's contract until
Mhm.
2024. Now, in my opinion, this is a horrible, horrible move. Okay, I think this is awful.
Mhm.
Now, I think that the club is settling for winning nothing. I think that they haven't made one victory, like one trophy, in 4 years, and they're extending this guy for another 3 years when he's already been at the club for 3 years, hasn't won a thing. I just think that Man U is settling right now. I think that they're not moving in the right direction with this, and it's kind of worrying. So, for a Man United fan, Ali, please tell me what you think about that.
No, and I love how we're just jumping right into it. The people need to know, what we think around here. And one of one of the last videos I had where Manchester United in the Champions League with Lukaku, obviously as our striker. And one of the last things I said was, this team's looking really good under Ole. And they honestly they were, they look like a really free team under him. Like obviously we score a lot more goals. Our team is a lot better than what it used to be, back in 2018. But personally, I agree 100%. I feel like we are settling for being mediocre. I feel like we're settling because we look good. Obviously, with all the chaos that happened, we've definitely as a team, right? As a club, they definitely tackled political issues. They've also tackled things that happened with COVID and their employees. So I get that there's definitely a lot going on. Coming to the end part, because basically now other teams are definitely making some changes here, as we all know, especially in the Premier League. And the one thing that I didn't want to see, before we get into like everything else with Manchester, the one thing I did not want to see is Ole, managing the current team that we have, unfortunately.
And like you were saying to me earlier, he's not the worst manager you guys have had since Ferguson left, right? He has a good like win record. It's just the only problem is that he has no silverware. Like when Mourinho was hounded out of the club, he won 3 trophies. Won the Europa League, he won the
Mhm.
FA Cup or whatever, and like the Community Shield or whatever it was. So even though he was hated, he was still winning things. And at the end of the day, what's more important, right? Like, do you want to win stuff or do you want to like have a guy that everyone likes? Because obviously he's really likable. I'm sure he's good with the players as a good man manager. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about him. Whereas Mourinho, on the other hand, everyone hates him pretty much, right? But he knows how to win and he demands a lot from his players, and he also doesn't take any shit from the club. So I don't know, man. What do you think?
No. Exactly. That's one of the things that we went over. Like obviously we've had like Louis Van Gaal, right? The I want to say the third most capped manager after Ferguson. He did win an FA Cup. Obviously, it wasn't the best time under him. Basically when he left in 2016, and then like you brought up, Ole definitely has the second best win percentage after Sir Alex, right? The only other person that is higher than him is Mourinho, and that's the thing you have to take into consideration. Like Mourinho knows what he's doing. Okay, like he doesn't have the nickname the chosen one for nothing. Okay, like what he did at all the teams in the past. The one thing is, I definitely don't want to compare how Oli and Jose Mourinho is because, like we said, that's in the past, and we're obviously looking forward here. But Mourinho did win 3 trophies. You won the Europa League, like you said, League Cup and Community Shield. The one thing is, those trophies alone are still not what the biggest club in the world biggest club in history should be doing. Okay, we need to be winning the league, we need to be winning Champions League and everything else. We need to be winning trebles. Okay, because obviously our rivals are, and there are other teams that are winning much more than we are. And I get that we're definitely scoring more goals. We definitely look better. Obviously, there's not as much drama in the club, which is also fantastic. But I mean, the games that we are winning, the goals that we are scoring are basically just going to waste. Okay, like again, like I said, I don't want to compare them. Jose got a second place with a much worse team than what we currently have right now. Okay, a lot of our players are in form. A lot of the players are doing a lot better than they were before as well. A lot of players aren't injured anymore. So when you see somebody like Oli winning these games, but then showing nothing for it. Like I said, it's almost like it's going to waste.
And you want to see the team like you said winning, but and challenging too, right? Like last year they got second, and everyone might think, like on paper that looks really good. We got second place, 12 points behind City, not even close. Not even, 4 wins, not even close. So like, it's like I don't know, like
We definitely give up more games. Obviously, under Mourinho, it definitely wasn't perfect. But when he has a better win percentage than we definitely scored more, but we also conceded less under him as well. And like I was saying, like just the matches we were winning, the matches that we give away, um, it's a lot of other things as well. Like when you have Oli, like and you're down, a goal, right? And you want to sub somebody, and we're making subs in what, the 80th minute. Like like who is he to expect a player to come on and score within that time?
that's a
You know
good
what I
point. I
mean?
actually forgot about that. Didn't he only make? I think he made his first sub in extra time against Villarreal in the Europa League final. I'm pretty sure.
And it's just obviously we definitely needed more players coming off the bench, and that's what we're definitely going to see this coming season. But that's what I mean. Like Jose definitely knew, right? Mourinho definitely knew how to coach, right?
Change the
And
game in the
I don't
50th minute, get someone out, bring someone in.
e- exactly, and we've seen it in the games, especially when when we played the Juve in the second leg, right? Like that was just basically a coach doing his work, right? The
Hmm.
chosen one doing his work. And I get Oli. He's definitely something that's going to take, some time to be basically come in and fit that role. I don't want to compare him to somebody who's been doing this for how many years, right? Especially all the achievements that Mourinho has. But this is the thing, like this is not. A championship team. This is not like a team outside of the top 5 leagues, right? This is again the big in terms of history, the biggest club ever, right? And we just don't have time, unfortunately, to be wasting some of our players' primes or be wasting our players. Other teams are getting richer, right? Other teams are getting ready to spend like in 2 years, 1 year. PSG is going to come knocking again for Pogba, and why? And if he's not winning, why would he not? Why
Leave.
would he not go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Cavani's not getting any younger. Like these, we need a coach to come in right now and win right now with the players that we do have. So I was disappointed when I did see that we offered an extension there.
Yeah, well, like you were just saying too, you were talking about how there's not many players coming off the bench. I think that Manu's done very well in this summer window, picking up Varane. We'll talk about Varane and Sancho. Varane first, obviously. Him coming in, I think that fixes a huge problem and a huge hole that Manu's had for the past however many years at center back. Now you bring in Maguire. That's just one of the two. Whoever he's been paired with has always been subpar every time. You bring in Varane. He's extremely physical. He's good in the air. He has winning experience. He's right-footed. These are all traits that, like, what I mean. He's going to play on the right side of the center backs. Now we know that in his previous years at Madrid, he played almost second fiddle. He was kind of like the understudy to Sergio Ramos, right? So now he's going to come to the Man United team. He's going to be playing the same type of role where Harry Maguire will take the lead. He's the captain of the club, obviously. He's going to kind of command the team on the pitch. And Varane's used to playing in that role where he understands, he has to listen. He has to work well with his duo. And I think that he's going to fit in really well. I think that everything that he has in his CV thus far, it like shows that he knows like what he's doing. He's in the peak of his career. He's 28 years old. If you look at his like trophies won, he's 4 Champions League. Like this guy, La Liga's, he's hundreds of trophies. This guy, he's a winner. He knows what he's doing. You're bringing in the right kind of guy. I think that honestly, there's not many other players. Even a guy like Koulibaly, who I think was linked with Man U for a while. I don't think that's as good of a signing as Varane is. I think Varane is a year younger. I think he's has all those traits. I think he's actually a better defender and a better player, and he's also won 4 Champions League, so he knows and a World Cup, mind you. So I think that this is a very good signing. I think he's going to fit into the squad really well. I think that, like I said, the Prem, especially out of any other league, is the most physically demanding league. You need to be fast, you need to be
Hmm.
strong, you need to be agile, you need to be able to move quickly because a lot of balls are coming in high over the top. A lot of balls are being played long. A lot of teams like to sit back and then hit you on the counter long with fast wingers. Think of and even the bad teams. If you look at a team like, for example, Newcastle, Saint Maximin, the pace on the wing, like a lot of teams like to just have a lot of fast wingers and that's the English style. They want to hit you on the break. Same thing with England in the Euros, which we'll get to later. So I think that Varane's perfectly suited for that, and I think that he's gonna excel this year.
No, and for sure, I know. And the best thing about this is we definitely, me and you are both great fans of Varane, right? Like we know how good he is. Anybody who says that this signing isn't as good as as people think it is, they're just lying to themselves. Like they know this is probably one of the best signings that especially Manchester United can make. Any team that could sign Varane is a great signing, but the fact that Manchester United, who needs this, signed him just makes everything better, right? And again, going back to where you're saying, he's in the peak of his career at 28 as a defender, right? He's coming into a league, and maybe this is something that we could dive into, at a different date. But the difference between the Premier League to any other league in the world is that the players, especially defenders, are much more athletic than anybody else, right? They are stronger, they are faster. They're not necessarily, and I hate to say it, they're not necessarily as good as defending, right, in other leagues, but they are much better defenders,
Yeah,
right?
like
Like
tactically,
they
you
they are
mean?
yeah, they are
Yeah.
faster, stronger. They're better on the ball. They make more passes. They play more
Hmm.
games. It's back and forth. It's a lot to unpack in the games, and that's where Varane needs to be. And especially, he's not going to be sitting next to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing as well. Like and I've said this before. People always laughed and everything, but Maguire is unreal, and he's been unreal. And the only thing is, as well, is he's been getting better since he's been at Manchester United, which is fantastic for us as well. So playing next to Varane, who, like you said, like if we take a look, he's a World Cup winner, 4 Champions Leagues. Like he has more trophies than a lot of clubs do today, right? So him coming in, especially for this Manchester United team, is probably, you said it was a good transfer. It was, we did something well there. That's honestly an understatement to how I see it. I think this is one of the best signings probably in the last couple of years that you would have seen any club make in
Yeah.
the Premier League.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. And just kind of adding on to that before we move on to Jadon Sancho. Uh, some people might say that, for example, when you look at a player like Oscar in the peak of his career, he leaves Chelsea and goes to China, right? And you say that's obviously
Mhm.
a huge downgrade. And anyone leaving Madrid, pretty much, for any club is a downgrade, essentially, because Madrid is a team they won 3 Champions Leagues in a row. They won 4 to 5 in those 5 year span. And obviously, their ambition is to win treble every year. So people might look at it and say, you're leaving Real Madrid. Like, are you going to Man U for a payday? But I think that if you look at it, he has nothing left to win. He's won everything. He's won the Copa del Rey, the La Liga. He's won the Champions League, the Club World Cup, the World Cup. He won everything that there is to win. So now, obviously, he wants a new challenge. He wants to go somewhere else and apply a trade in a different league. And I think that's really respectable. Obviously, Ronaldo's done the same thing a few times. And yeah, so like that makes sense to me. I have seen some people say things like that, and I just think that's really stupid. Regardless, I see
It's
why
they're just
that would
lying.
be like said, obviously, but I think that in this case it doesn't apply at all. Even though Man U is obviously a worse team at the moment than Real Madrid is, even maybe that's up for debate because obviously a lot of players have left this summer. I still think that he's very ambitious and he wants to win and he's trying to further his career.
And no, and that's exactly how I see it, right? Like, what else does this guy have to win? If he retires right now, he could arguably go down on like the top.
Won
50
everything.
best defenders,
Yeah.
right? Of all time, right? If he retires right now, and he still has so much more to his career, right? And like the one thing that I should have brought up, but since we're talking about it, the one thing he brings Manchester United, which a lot of clubs in the Premier League, especially in the Premier League, don't have, is Champions League experience. Okay, and this is not only right; he's not going in and losing in the group stage in the knockout rounds. He's going in and he's on a team that's winning,
And he's playing
right?
every
And
game
obviously,
too.
right, and we know that that obviously that he's injury prone, and the last couple of years, he's definitely been getting better at that, right, and staying healthy. But the one thing is, like, especially for Manchester United, this is something that we need, right? It's somebody who has all this experience. The Premier League, again, it's going to be a different beast. Obviously, getting a player from outside the Premier League is always scary, right? Especially defenders. But again, the experience that he's going to bring, especially to the younger people, the Luke Shaws, the Wan Bissakas, right, who are going to be playing with him, as well as other things that he can bring to the Rashfords, again, the Mason Greenwoods, right? The amount of experience that he's going to have, that he's going to be able to give off, that's it's absolutely huge. And again, like I said, it's one of the best signings that any team can make, but it's even better that Manchester United signed him.
And going along with great signings, obviously they brought in Jaden Sancho as well. And I wanted to talk to you about two things with him. One thing is kind of what we touched on with Varane, which is the signing itself, as in him filling in a spot that Manchester United obviously like desperately needed to fill. And then the other side of that is him as the actual player. And starting off with him as the player, I personally think that he is tremendously overrated. You might disagree with me,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that now he's only 20, which you have to take into consideration. He has a lot of time to improve. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to name Depay and Di Maria, for example, and even Martial, who all have come to Man U with high hopes and high expectations. They never really hit their full potential. Now Di Maria has left Man U, and obviously kind of almost rekindled what he had at Madrid back at PSG, right? Even for Argentina as well. He's been very good these past few years, especially. Same with Depay. Depay's been very good at Lyon, and he's been very good for Netherlands as well. So a, a lot of people, the shirt's heavy. The shirt is very heavy at Man U. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of pressure on you. A lot of people don't cope with that very well, even if they're great players. And I don't think I've seen enough from Jadon Sancho at this time to say like he is gonna be the savior. He's gonna help and he's gonna fix Man U. And he's what they needed. But uh, I don't know. Like I just don't think either he's gonna have the instant impact like he had, like Bruno had, or it's gonna take him some time to really get acclimated. Like I said, he's only 20. It's gonna take him, maybe a couple years, get acclimated, get into the league, get into the rhythm. Understand like because like we've been saying earlier too, it's much different than the Bundesliga, obviously, from the physical aspect, right? Bundesliga is one of the most technical leagues in the world, as far
Mm-hmm.
as like ball movement and like actually being technical at the sport, as opposed to where the Premier League is less technical but much more physical, where these guys, the defenders are leaving 2 feet at your knees every time they tackle you. So how well will he be able to cope with that? I don't know. I think he's gonna flop personally. I really don't have very high hopes for him, but obviously he's a talented and he's a kid, so I mean it's really up in the air for me at this point.
No, and again, that's like like I said about Varane, right? Getting a player from outside of the Premier League is scary for any club, right? Especially when your main mission, right, or the thing that's right off the first at the top of the list is basically winning, right? Obviously, if you get a player, especially at this age, into your team, they have so much growth to go into and you basically adapt to how the Premier League is, because it is body taxing, right? Compared to every other league. Like you said, the Bundesliga is much more tactical than it is, physical. And basically, players in the Premier League mostly can do everything, right? But look at players on Bayern, look at his teammates at Borussia Dortmund, like they're all fantastic. The one thing is, it is like we brought it forward. It is definitely scary, right? Bringing him in overrated. I'm not too sure if I could go as far as that. Saying I do need to before I make any judgments, I need to see him play a couple games, especially in this team in this position. A lot of the times when he was playing on Borussia Dortmund, he's playing with older, more experienced players. Like Michael Royce has been here for quite some time, right? Like some of the Matt Hummels, some of these players, they're all very well experienced. Matt Hummels, obviously being a winner in himself, right? So. A lot of the players that he played with were much more experienced compared to where we're at right now with Manchester United. It's obviously a very young team, but I just think also like I said above Ron. putting him into this Manchester United team is absolutely fantastic. He plays perfect on right winger, which is most likely where he's going to be playing. If we look at the only thing is if you look at some of these stats, basically throughout the years in the Bundesliga, I mean, like last year, right in the 19 and 20 season, this guy was 17 and 17 goals and assists, right? For both, you look at 18, 19, when he was like 19 years old, he had 12 goals, 18 assists. Like, just in the Bundesliga, right? So playing 34 games. I don't know if he's going to be playing that many games with that many minutes right off the bat for the Manchester United in the Premier League, but I mean he's putting in 2,400 minutes, 2,200 minutes, 2,000 minutes here at this age. So he's definitely getting experience as well. He obviously, has won things with Borussia Dortmund, which is also great because that's what I want to surround my other players with. Like I want to surround, our youngsters like Greenwood with winners, right? People who know how to win, people who've won before in the past, people who are much experienced. And the one thing as well that he also brings, like Varane, is he has had Champions League experience as well, which is something that we need, right? Again, players who have played in again, other teams, I don't want to poke jabs at anybody, but if we look at Arsenal picking up a player like Ben White, I mean, great player, especially since he's played in the Premier League, but he doesn't offer any other experience. He's played on a team that was actually worse than them, right? Arguably, right?
Hmm.
So again, we're bringing in a player which we need for the right mid position. We're not going to be, let's say if he doesn't start, but we need to sub someone on. We're not subbing in Juan Mata and Daniel James anymore, right? We're subbing on again Jordan Sancho, who's one of the best youngsters. I think today, right? So the one thing about this signing, as well as Varane, is I think that if anybody signed him again, it'd be a great signing for them, especially for the price that we got him at. But the fact that Manchester United, who deeply, deeply needs a right winger, right, or a right mid, in Jordan Sancho, I think personally, by the time we're recording this, okay, let's say if City basically sign somebody like Kane or Jack Grealish, I still think that Manchester United has done the bestest transfer window. Like these two signings put us at a different level than we were before. Like if we go back to the first conversation, would I have liked to see a better manager, right? Like Zidane, like Allegri, like even Conte, right? Who has shown results, even if he's there for 1 year, you bring him in and he wins. Um, I don't know how this team is going to form or is basically going to work under Oli. But hopefully, honestly, I just can't see how you don't win anything with a team like this,
Yeah, I
right? Like,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, this is one of the best. If I'll go as far as to say it's definitely one of the best teams in the world after these two signings.
Yeah, like the signing of the player himself, he fits what like the team was missing. They needed a right winger for a long time. Obviously, they've been playing Mason Greenwood out there or whatever. Even Rashford sometimes you want to like throw him on the wing, but I think that they needed an out and out like this is my position, right winger. And even though Bruno was one of the most creative players in the whole league last year, I still think that they needed more creativity, and that was like one of their problems. He brings creativity, brings pace, he brings a dribble threat. He can start right away for the team. You know what I mean? He's not going to be a guy like I don't like he's not going to be that type of player where he like needs to be embedded in. He can still start right away. Obviously, he's played on the biggest stage. If
How well he'll do.
I just don't know how well he'll do exactly, but I know he has the potential to do very well. And I think as well, it's a great signing because obviously they needed to fill this gap, and that's what they did. They needed to fill the center back gap. They only had one reliable CB. They get one. They need to fill the right wing gap. They get one. So I think I agree for sure. It's definitely a great signing. If you look at their potential 11, okay, going into the season on paper, obviously they probably wouldn't play like this, but let's just say like if we had to throw their best 11 players in their all their positions on the field, right? You have De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, Luke Shaw, Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes. Then you can either go Fred McTominay or Matic in the midfield, right? As like the holding midfielder. Then you would go Rashford, even though he's injured right now, obviously just on paper. Cavani and Sancho. That 11 could easily be the best on paper team in the whole league. That could be like if all these guys play to their peak, that is literally the best team in the league, like on paper. Now, obviously, they have to play like that. Oli has to get the best out of everyone. He has to figure out the right system where everyone fits, how to make Sancho the most effective, how to make Cavani the most effective, how to abuse Rashford, Martial, all these players, right? Bruno as well, Pogba. But at the end of the day, I think that it's like I said, this is a great team. I personally think that this team could challenge for the title. I just don't know about Ollie and his consistency. and if
Hmm.
he'll be able to, because you don't win leagues beating City, Chelsea, Liverpool. You win leagues when you get 3 points and you don't draw against Brighton, Norwich. Like those are the teams you have to beat. You have to beat these teams. You have to beat Brentford. You know what I mean? You got to beat these teams. If you're losing points to them, that's why you're not going to win the league. And man, you got so many draws last season. That's why they're 12 points behind City. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the management from Ollie. But I think that
No,
this 11 is good.
and honestly, yeah, like going through like a lot of things that you said, right? Especially with the Bruno came to like I'm not gonna beat around the bush here, right? Like there are rumors that they're going to be changing like the penalty rules and stuff like that. And I don't want Manchester United to be in a place where, again, I hate to say it, where last year we would have gone to penalty, scored it, won the game, and this upcoming season, we don't get that penalty and we draw. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't want to kind of paint Bruno as that guy because he's definitely one of the most creative players. Um, I want to say playing right now. Again, might be a little bit biased there, but again, if you're looking at uh, you know, the players that we have now, especially with the Jordan Sancho signing here, players that we can bring off the bench now that we have that. Like we can now start playing Mason Greenwood, as our striker, right? We can, hopefully with Jesse Lingard being in form, we can also put him on for more, basically width and depth that we have. And basically if we talk about Martial, because before the season started, he actually had the best goal to game ratio than any left winger. I know he was playing strike for a bit, but starting off at left winger than anybody at Manchester United, right? So that's taken Ronaldo and Ryan Giggs, right? Just goal to game ratio, he had the best. Hopefully he gets in form as well because he's obviously definitely going to be useful. I'm not too sure what happened this year with him, but like these signings that we have, as well as the players that we do have on the bench. Like some people forget, but like I mean, Mason Greenwood is what he's basically like 18, right, going on to 19 here, and he's probably the best finisher in the club. So again, putting him at right winger, I know that's where he started, but it's almost like a waste in my eyes because when he's definitely up and he's definitely in the box one on one, you know I think it's going in every single time. Like I haven't seen this guy miss when it was one on one,
Hmm.
right? And like you said, right, you definitely don't win just by having a great team, right? Like again, the reason why, if we take a look at City, if the reason why these players are so good is because they're also coached very very well. Like the coach makes these guys look like most of them are the best players in the world, and obviously with the numbers that they put up, they definitely arguably are. But you're right. Like we won't win the league by drawing against like some of the the bottom clubs teams, and at the same time, you don't win the stuff like the FA Cup and the Champions League by drawing against these teams, especially in the FA Cup where you're playing against some teams you legit have nothing to lose. I mean, they're going out there with the only thing they have in their mind is to win this game. It's probably one of the biggest games of their life.
Yeah, for them, for the whole season, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you don't win those games by drawing those teams or lose. You don't win the FA Cup by losing to these teams, right? Like you want players who are winners. You want players who the only thing in their mind is to win, and that's the one thing I see by Jordan Sancho as well. Again, I don't, I'm not gonna draw myself as a fake here, but I don't watch the Bundesliga as much, right? But just watching just Jordan Sancho alone, right? I wish I could have watched him more into the Euros, but just watching Jordan Sancho alone, I think he's as well as Rashford and Greenwood. I think the roof is not the limit for these guys. I think they can go a lot higher.
Okay, I agree with that very much. Moving on to some very annoying rumors. Man City looking to get Jack Grealish at 100 million and Harry Kane. We're gonna talk about Harry Kane after Jack first. 'Cause I think the Grealish bid. I seen Fabrizio tweeting earlier today that like their talks are progressing and blah blah blah. So I think that obviously that one has a better chance of being done sooner anyway than Harry Kane does. But I'm just gonna rattle you off some facts about Jack Grealish. All right, so the price tag they're looking at right now that everyone's reporting is 100 million. That would be the highest fee ever paid for an English player. So I think the last British player was Gareth Bale, who went to Madrid for like 91 million or something like that. So this would be the highest paid English player and British player, obviously. Last season, scored 6 goals and provided 10 assists. Okay, which actually are good numbers like for anyone, especially in the Premier League. And he had 14 big chances created. Okay, now he's tied for third in the Prem behind Bruno, who was in first with 20 big chances created, and then KDB with 19, and then him and Trent both had 14 big chances created. Okay, so this is where it doesn't make sense for me. Okay, so you're gonna go out spend 100 million. on Jack Grealish. Okay. Now, if we look back to the Euros, he was displaced in the England setup because of Raheem Sterling. Okay, Raheem Sterling was a lock. He had to start every game. He had a great Euros too. He played very well. He scored all their goals up until a certain point. He's the only reason why they even got out of the group stage. Now, this guy is the reason that you didn't play. You're gonna go to his club. You play the same position as him. Okay. Now, obviously that's a bit narrow-minded because if you look at it, right, they both offer different traits, different characteristics, different capabilities. Okay, so Sterling, for example, is much better against teams that play high and he's fast, right? So he can run at you, he can run straight down the line. He's obviously abuses pace, and he's scores a lot of goals. So he's more of a goal threat going forward against teams who sit high. But Jack Grealish is much better like equipped to play against teams who have a deep block and sit way back. For example, Mourinho sides. If you look at West Brom last year against under Sam Allardyce, same thing. They sit super deep, and you need guys that are able to unlock that. Now that's where Grealish, I think, shines the most. Is he's able to take on a man one-on-one, beat him, get a cross in, create a chance, score goals, provide assists. Right now, that could make sense, right? You could say, okay, maybe Pep wants an option at left wing where he can bring on either Grealish or Sterling, depending on the situation. Okay, that I guess that would make sense. Now, the problem that I have with that is you have Phil Foden, you have Bernardo Silva, you have Ferran Torres, and Riyad Mahrez, okay, who are all wingers. Ferran Torres is right-footed as well, okay, so the other ones are left-footed. So maybe Pep wanted a right-footed left winger. You could put Ferran Torres on the left wing, and him and Grealish could essentially do the same job, okay? So you have all these guys who play a similar role to Grealish, and they all output similar stats to him. Now, the thing with this is Riyad Mahrez, when Leicester City won the Premier League in 2016, he had 20 big chances created. He had 11 assists and 17 goals, right? And that's when he's playing every week. Now, we all know that in the league, there's this thing called Pep Roulette, where Pep will change one day Joao Felix plays, one day Kyle Walker plays, one day Laporte's playing, one day it's Ruben Diaz, one day it's Foden, one day it's Bernardo Silva, one day it's Gab Jesus, one day it's Aguero. It changes all the time, right? The squad is so deep that all these players are getting switched out a lot. So obviously Riyad Mahrez not getting the same minutes isn't getting the same output as he would have if he's playing every game, okay? And if the system's also built around him. But we know that he's able to do that. We know Bernardo Silva is able to do something similar to that. We know Ferran Torres, from when he was at Valencia, is able to output numbers like that, right? We obviously know Phil Foden's a great young talent. He's able to do a similar job to Jack Grealish. So my question to you is, why would Man City spend $100 million on a player that they already have at their club? They already have four of this guy at their club. Why would they spend $100 million on this guy?
Yeah, I know. And honestly, when I seen it myself, I thought this was again. And people are saying it, and the reason why me and you were talking about this earlier, but a lot of people are saying that Jack is going to be a better signing than Jordan Sancho potentially. Obviously, if he goes right, and I just think absolutely no way. Like you said, there are rumors that that Sterling won't be playing for them in the future. Again, it could be this window or come January, right? But again, like everybody said, or like you were saying, you're basically paying for the exact same player. And if we take a look at obviously Mares and if you take a look at Bernardo Silva, right? Like these players are fantastic. They are arguably some of the best players in the league already, right? So like if you're taking a look at um, like you said, if you're taking a look at Jack and putting him into this team, again, potentially you're looking at playing less minutes. He's not going to be the main man anymore because I'm sorry, no matter how good looking and how good Jack is, he's not going to be getting the ball more than Kevin De Bruyne. There's just absolutely no way, right? Like arguably the best midfielder in the world, right? So he's not going to be the main guy anymore. He's not going to be touching the ball. He does play a lot different than Mares and Bernardo Silva, especially when Mares was on Leicester, because a lot of people say that Mars definitely was the best player on that team, besides Vardy and Conte. But like Jack will get the ball at like half field, or basically in his final third, and he'll just make a simple pass, right? And basically at the same time, he can create absolutely anything. Like he's a magician on the ball. But you're right. Him going to this team with every other player and spending this price tag as well. Like, I mean, if you're trying to look for another player, again, it could be cheaper, right? But you're going to this team for this huge transfer. Obviously, Villa would love this money, right? Like there's no question about that. But they most likely want Jack more, right? So and that's what it seems like. But when you're this type of player who there's four of you already playing, and let's say Sterling does leave again, and let's say you do play more, right, or the same amount of minutes, which is very unlikely. Again, you're not being the main guy on the team anymore. Again, you're going to a team that wins for sure. Like the City, regardless what hat I'm wearing, what team I support, City definitely win a lot more, and they're a winning team, right? They definitely choke, and obviously the biggest stage at the Champions League, unfortunately, or fortunately,
every
depending who you
time, but
support,
yes.
almost every time. But I mean, like, if you're looking at this team, they obviously win a lot, right? And everybody knows it, everybody can admit it. But again, what if he goes there? What is he going to bring that the players that they have already don't bring to the
Yeah,
table?
exactly that.
That's just what I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly that too. And then you could say maybe, okay, if you're gonna have Sterling, for example, or even Bernardo, whoever play on the left wing, you could use Jack as a 10. He could play in behind whatever center forward they get, if they get Kane, say, or if they get whatever, if they want to use Gap Jesus, or even have him as a false nine, whatever. But then you look and you say, well, Kevin De Bruyne already plays the 10. So say he's out injured. Well, Phil Foden can play the 10. Bernardo Silva can also play the 10, and he's played the
He
10
already plays
before
center. He plays center. He was playing center forward this year, and he was doing great.
in the
And
Champions
and
League. Yeah,
yeah, and Gundogan as well was playing center forward. He was
yeah.
basically playing
As a
striker some
false,
games.
it's essentially as their false nine because, like we said,
Yeah.
like Pep brings that Spain style to them, right? Where like they like to play with the false nine, so they bring the forward back and they create that overload in the midfield, and then they have more numbers to recuperate the ball. If you watch Italy versus Spain, which we'll talk about soon, um, essentially every time Italy would win the ball back from Spain, they would be pressed so high because there's so many players that are so in these tight blocks. They would send it long, and then it's 2v1 every time they win the ball back, right? City's similar to that, and they play with that same style where they'll use Gundogan at striker because he'll come in deep and he'll create the overload in the midfield and they can move the ball around. But it doesn't make any sense to me because, like I said, you play Jack on the left wing, you have three left wingers. You play him on the right wing, you have two right wingers. You play him as a 10. These guys, Bernardo could play, like we said, Mahrez, they can all play as a 10 too. So for me, in my head, it doesn't make sense why you'd want him because this isn't a problem for you. Like, we know that Man U, Jadon Sancho is fixing a problem, which is the right wing's position. Varane's
Hmm.
fixing a center back problem. You're going to play Lindelof, Eric Bailly, Phil Jones, or Varane. You know what I mean? Like that fixes a huge problem. He's better than all of them combined. So I
Hmm.
just don't get why, like we said, why Jack Grealish would ever like even be on their list. Why they would need him. But anyway, like I was saying, I just mentioned Harry Kane. Now his situation is a bit different. Now he didn't show up to training the last 2 days. Today's Tuesday, August 3rd that we're recording this, so he hasn't showed up on Monday the 2nd or today the 3rd. He's obviously pushing for a move. Now, there's reports that he has a gentleman's agreement with the club where they said they would let him go this summer. Even though he has 3 years left on his deal, he signed a new deal, a 6-year deal in 2018. So he still has 3 years left on that deal, which for me doesn't make too much sense. I'm not sure when Poch actually left. I think it was in 2019 though, in the winter. But I
The
think that's
Champions
why.
League when they went to the final.
Yeah, after that, right? I think that's why he signed that deal because he saw the project, and now the project's obviously gone. But for me, I'm seeing these numbers 130 million to go to City. Now, I could see that. That would be a good sign for them. I think that that fixes their center forward problem. They just lost Aguero. You have to replace him somehow. You can't
Hmm.
go. I personally, I don't think, especially in the Premier League, it's difficult to try to apply these foreign philosophies into such a rigid and a league that's very stuck in their ways, where everyone plays a certain way. It's hard to be successful when you're trying to play these false nines and these like three back weird systems against these teams who play 4-4-2. You're not getting past them. You know what I mean? So I feel like you do need an out and out striker. Last year, Harry Kane was the Golden Boot winner, and he had the most assists, won the Player of the Year. I mean, a guy like that on any team
Or
obviously
didn't win Player of the
didn't
Year.
win Player of the Year. Sorry, for some reason. A guy like that on your team, though, you need a guy like that on your team who's scoring goals, right? He's a top goal scorer. You need that on your team, and I think that, especially like we were saying earlier, in a league where a lot of balls are coming in the box, there's a lot of crosses. You just need a poacher, a guy who can put the ball away, and that's what Harry Kane is very good at. So, in my opinion, it would be a good move for them to get him. I would much rather them spend their money, well, although I wouldn't because I don't want to play against them in the Champions League at all. But I would much, as a City fan, I would much rather City get Kane over Grealish.
And that's the scariest thing, right? Because healthy, I think Harry Kane is, arguably top three, but definitely top five best strikers in the world.
Yeah, at the
Healthy,
moment for
like
sure.
this guy can do anything. And the one thing as well, like he's definitely not somebody that you could see fitting in a Manchester City type of play because, basically when he's playing on Tottenham and he plays for England, he just comes so deep, right? Compared to like when you were to watch Aguero, right, where he would just play so well off the ball in the
Hmm.
box, right, where he comes in, skies the top corner. But the thing with Harry Kane is because of how good he is, right, he can fit any system,
Yep.
right, and that's a huge problem for every single team. I hope they do not get Harry Kane. I would love Harry Kane for him to come here. I'm probably going to tag him in this video, and hopefully he sees it, and maybe he'll send me a DM.
Be
But
huge.
yeah, that'd be huge. But again, he's like top five players healthy. He can do absolutely anything on the pitch as a striker, which is like the scariest thing. I mean, sometimes when I would watch Tottenham games, this guy was defending in during the corners.
Yeah.
Okay, like he was that far deep getting the ball. So it's absolutely scary to watch a striker who, again, is not the most athletic, but is that good on the ball, right? Especially when he can pass like that in the final third. And the one thing as well is, if he wants to play like the traditional, get the ball, hold up play, and send it off, he can. If he
Hmm.
wants to also play the other way, where he basically gets the ball and he's just one on one, and he pushes in front of him and takes a shot, right? He'll score every time, and so that's a really crazy thing to think about because City can get, the ball to absolutely anybody on the field, right? Some of the problems I think City have, like obviously they had a center back problem with the amount of, times their center backs get injured, right? And I personally think they have a left back problem because, I mean, if you want to
Mendy.
look at some of
Mm.
their, yeah, if you want to look at some of their players, like Cancelo's basically not even playing left back half the time; he's basically playing midfield. So again, I would be more scared if they do get Harry Kane over Jack Grealish. I think if they
Hmm.
get Jack Grealish, it's basically like if they signed, I'd feel the same as when they signed Mahrez, Bernardo Silva,
Signed Dybala.
Sane.
It's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So it's just like they're basically signing a player they already have. But Kane is definitely the biggest issue. Is if they don't sign either of these players, am I going to automatically think that City is basically just chalked and they're off the table? Obviously not. But the two signings that we have definitely put us, I personally think, on either a tier above them right now. But again, if they sign Harry Kane, I can definitely see them, unfortunately, being a little bit higher than us, unless we don't, if we don't sign like a DM or another striker as well. But it's scary to think about. But at the same time, and again, I don't really want to be that guy and bring some of these things up, but Harry Kane, not a big game player, in my opinion. Would City have, again? If you want to talk about, three finals, no shots on goal, does that personally scare me? Because I can see us getting into some of these, big games with the squad that we currently have right now. And if we have to end up playing City with Harry Kane, will it be too terrified of them? Personally, no.
I don't
I'm
know,
not. I'm
man.
not. I'm
He
not going to hold back my punches. I'm not. I do love Harry Kane, but again, this is just his portfolio, right? Like it's just not that terrifying, especially with how I know how City choke in some of their finals.
he played 120 minutes against the Fratelli. 0 touches in the opposition box, man. I don't know. It's a bad look for a man like him. That's not a good look. Let me tell you that.
It's definitely not a good look, and especially when you're slapping on this price tag on him. Like I'm thinking, if you're slapping this price tag, like we said, he's definitely top five. But in terms of big game players, and that's what you really need at the end of the day to win some of these games. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have. He doesn't have that clutch factor in him.
Yeah, there's a few players at that club who are similar in that regard. But even kind of I kind of wanted to segue into a Euro recap quickly, but I do agree with what you're saying about how Kane is like he's very malleable, and you can play him as a 10, you can play him as the 9, you can play him as whatever you need him to be. Essentially, if you guys watch the kind of going into the Euros now, if you watch the Italy versus England game, in the goal that England scored, you see Kane come so deep, he's actually below Luke Shaw when he picks the ball up and he pings it out to Kieran Trippier, who like carries it in obviously, and then assists for their opening goal. And I think something like that, like not a lot of strikers really have that in their locker. You're not going to see, for example, as a Juve fan, Alvaro Morata come down and do that. You're not going to see Lewandowski come down and do that. These guys are out and out number 9 strikers. Their only thing that they're good at is standing in the 18-yard box and putting the ball in the net. They're not good at anything else. They're not trying to build the play up. They're not trying to come deep and pick the ball up. They're going to hold the ball up at high, and they're going to run at you, and they're going to finish the ball in the net. That's it. They're not going to be creating chances like Harry Kane is. So.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, I think that for sure he's a very scary player, especially to go to a team like City. But moving on, I'm going to bring up the Euro bracket right here. We'll do a little recap here. So let me get it on the screen. Okay, so you guys can see this here. It's a bit small, but you can see the obviously, you can't see it, but you should pull yours up anyways. This
Hmm.
is the knockout stage bracket, and I just want to do a quick recap. Obviously, the Euros have ended 3 weeks ago. Obviously, the Fratelli won it. Don't get me started. We'll talk about it later. I was very hyped. I cried. It was a great day for me. But kind of starting off, what I like to do is we'll talk about the top side of the bracket, and then we'll talk about the bottom side of the bracket afterwards. Okay, so essentially, the first game I wanted to talk about in the knockout stage was Belgium 1, Portugal nil. Now, I personally thought that Portugal were very underwhelming the whole tournament, and
Hmm.
I was worried about them because, well, not as an Italy fan, I wasn't worried about them, but I was worried about like their team because I felt like they just weren't ready to win, even though they have Ronaldo and like Pepe playing, and even Rui Patricio, who obviously won the tournament with them in 2016. I just felt like
Yeah.
Bruno at the time, even though he's still a veteran, like he's like 26, I just felt like that team didn't have enough time together and they just weren't ready to win. And you could see that against France, for example. Like they drew, they almost drew or even could have lost to Hungary.
Hmm.
Then obviously they
Yeah.
lost to Germany. So I just thought like they just didn't have like what it took and what we really needed from them. And I just didn't see them really going that far in this tournament. I don't know.
No, for sure. Honestly, like the team that they had, like you said, basically some of the worst players of the tournament. To because they obviously have the team of the tournament, and then some of the worst players at the tournament in terms of grade, right? Bernardo Silva and Jota were both on that, and again, it might have been because that's one thing we're definitely going to talk about. That that might have been a problem, but like Diego Jota compared to last year to this year, he only played like 1,000 minutes, right? In terms
Mm.
of injury, he did
Yeah, he
score
was
more
injured. Yep.
goals. Obviously, he's playing on a better team, so maybe that affected his form. But at the same time, the one thing he was going for, and again, anybody who watches the channel knows. Okay, so I'll get it out of the way. Ronaldo is the best player of all time. Like, let's just get that out of the way right now. So when even if you don't believe that, he is the greatest goal scorer of all time, and you can't really argue that fact. So if you're playing on a team with, and again, maybe this sounds like a beta male type thing to say, but when you're playing with the greatest goal scorer of all time, your job should be getting him the ball.
Mhm.
Okay, it should be setting him up to score,
Mhm.
and especially, and sometimes again, I don't play at a professional level. Like, look at me, right? I'm recording in my bedroom, but like sometimes you got to take a step back and think, if I'm not playing the best, right? Maybe I should switch it up and play a little differently. Obviously, the way Portugal set up in that whole tournament, when they're playing literally two dinosaurs at center, defensive mid, who literally cannot create anything. There's not one time where you saw Cavallo and say, "Wow, that guy can create any chance on the field." You just don't do it. The guy's
Yeah.
literally a dinosaur. He was old when they won back in 2016. He was old then, and now they're playing him in 2021. Okay, so like when I saw that, right, these guys are basically walking on the pitch, and then you have Bruno. Unfortunately, I honestly, and I was saying this before, if Bruno had, basically a masterclass this whole Euro and they won, he could be arguably talked about for winning the Ballon d'Or.
Mhm.
Regardless how biased that sounds, but
Mhm.
he
I
had a
agree.
stinker.
Yeah.
He played like shit.
Yep.
So the whole team just for some reason just it felt like they didn't come. Obviously, when they switched up and they started playing Renato Sanchez, right, and he started playing more in those positions, they started looking better. But I feel like it was just too late. Juan Felix wasn't playing as much as well, which really made me mad, right? And the last game, I forget who it was against. Maybe you can tell me when they got knocked out of the tournament.
Against Belgium?
I think it was against Belgium, right? That knocked them out. Yeah, when they made their subs, they left Jota on. And
Yeah.
it's just like he's not even playing good to begin with. Like,
Mhm.
you're down 1-0. You got it. He hasn't created or done anything,
Yeah.
right? And obviously Ronaldo, again, whether you want to say it or not, based off the penalties that he had, but he was still creating something. Like, the again, people don't realize the type of player Ronaldo is at this age, where he has to be defended at all times. So regardless if he's basically back playing defense, a defender has or somebody has to be on him so he doesn't get the ball, right? And that always frees up space no matter what. And again, I'm sorry if people don't watch him play, or have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But for the people who do and they understand, like, just him being on the field, there has to be a defender on. He's trying to open up space, and unfortunately, when he has two people who can't create anything, yeah, I guess you can say as far as them being selfish. just super underwhelming, just not the talent that they have. Just super underwhelming. You honestly thought they would, get out at least in the final four, at least, right? Or
Yeah.
at least,
With that
get out
team,
to,
on paper, you look at that team and you
yeah,
say this team can win the tournament, but then you look at how they play and then you think, well, maybe not. But no, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think Ronaldo
underwhelming.
actually did have a great tournament, even though, like, the thing is, people say, okay, you scored 5 goals with 1 assist and you had 3 pens. Okay, well, we're about to get to it in the next little topic here, but someone else had a pen against Switzerland and he missed and their team got eliminated. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to score the pen. Like, you got to score the
Hmm.
pen no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter. So I don't know. For me, I thought he was good. I thought that their team like could have been a lot better. They were just so underwhelming. Like, we've seen Ronaldo against Germany when he wins the header off the corner, runs all the way up the field, and then gets the tap in it from Jota, obviously, to finish off that play, right? And it's just like that, like those little things, like people kind of miss those, Like he wins the ball in his
Hmm.
own half, runs all the way up the field at 36, and scores. You know what I mean? Against Germany, like. So I don't know. Like you're right. I agree. Like they didn't exploit him enough. They didn't make the most out of him and his threat. Like I would have him in the box, moving around, roaming. Like having all the center backs, everyone just kind of tracking and watching. There's always gonna be two guys on that frees up space for wingers and whatnot. You have Jota, you have Joao Felix, you have all these guys that are able to exploit the space. And I feel like I don't know. They just like they're not very well coached. They wasted a lot of chances. They had a lot of chances in the end of the game to win it. But obviously they hit the post once. Obviously the Courtois made a great save on a free kick. It's just a lot of things that didn't go their way, and unfortunately, that's when
No,
you're
for
playing
sure.
knockout football, bro. That's just the way that it is. Thorgan Hazard had a wonderful goal, and that's what separates the two good teams, in a tournament like this. But obviously, now moving on to what I was just foreshadowing, one of possibly the games of the whole tournament, arguably France versus Switzerland, 3-3, 8-7 on pens for the Swiss, nonetheless.
One of the best soccer games I've ever watched in my life.
It was
And
a
like the
crazy
thing,
game.
and what we talk about the most is how I personally think that France, should basically be the best team and should be winning it again with the amount of talent that they have. And again, for all the people, and I'm shameless, okay, and you know me, Nick, I'm shameless. But all the people out there saying Mbappe, one of the best players in the world, unfortunately, that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. And again, if you want to comment on that, anybody out there wants to comment at that, it's please, if you can, insert the photo of Rashford, sunning him. But again, that was definitely one of the best games I've ever seen, like for sure.
Yeah. So I thought that France. So they gave up a weak header, right? And I think that pretty much when you watch Italy play, you'll never in your life see Bonucci and Chiellini. Well, I'm sure. Okay, that's exaggerated. You will, but you'll very rarely see two stalwart CBs give up headers. Like a header is like the weakest goal you can ever concede. Obviously, you just whip a ball in the box and someone dunks on you, right? Now,
Hmm.
the Swiss obviously score a header in like the 15th minute, and for a while the game was pretty back and forth. Obviously, now in my opinion, I thought that France just looked way too comfortable. They looked too egotistical, and they thought like we're much better than this team. So no matter what happens, we have the quality and we have the players available for us to win this game no matter what. And I just felt like that cockiness was ultimately their downfall. Now the game, like I said, was very back and forth up until the Swiss got their pen. Now when the Swiss got their pen, it was like the 56th minute or something, 56 minutes, something like that. And I think that is when France realized, like, oh shit, like we could actually lose this game. Like if they score this
Hmm.
pen, we're gonna lose this
They
game.
played
And
it was a lot of ego ball.
yeah, and then they really decide like, whoa, like, we actually have to turn this up now. Like now we actually have to start playing. And at that point, obviously, Lloris made the save. Within 5 minutes of him making the save, it was 2-1 France. Benzema scored twice. Within 5 minutes, he saves it. 5 minutes later, it's now 2-1. France is winning. So I think that really switched. This is what happened, in my opinion. That moment changed the game for them. It switched on their mentality where they said, wow, what are we doing? We have to win this game. We have to turn it up now. They turn it up. They smoke the Swiss. They're all over them for pretty much the rest of the game until Pogba scores a screamer, which was potentially, I thought it was the goal of the tournament. Okay, he scores a banger that goes top right corner. Nothing Jan Sommer can do. And now you're thinking it's 3-1, this game's over. And then I think France went back into that mode they were in the whole game where they thought, listen, we're comfortable. We're going to win this game now. It's 3-1. These guys can't touch us. They got lucky that we weren't trying in the first half. Like we weren't. You watch Chiellini and Bonucci. I keep bringing them up because I just have the most experience with them. But you watch these guys, anyone on the Italian team are nowhere near as talented as like pretty much anyone on the France team at all. You can go player for player, no one's as talented. But the difference is that the Italians are humble and they'll like the players, and they will literally die. They will die on the field for the win, for to win for their country. Okay, and the
Yep.
France players aren't
Hmm.
like that at all. They're very egotistical, and they're thinking, okay, we're gonna win this game now. We're already up, and then obviously bit to relax. The Swiss score another lazy header. Okay, same thing. It's 3-2. France are thinking, whatever. And you could tell that they weren't like too worried about it because Paul Pogba picked up the ball at the halfway line as essentially the last man, and he gets dispossessed. They go on a counterattack and score. And you can just see in the mentality, like the fact that they would let him be on the ball, like in these moments at the end of the
And
game.
and and
Go ahead.
sorry, and drop the defender.
Yeah,
Okay, like not only did he get dispossessed and he gets it, I'm pretty sure it was Mbappe dropped.
yeah, because
Right?
they're thinking in these moments you want to keep the ball in the corner, you want to possess, you want to waste time, you want to move the ball around, you want to get them running, you want them to chase you, you want to play it back to the keeper, play it long, win it, whatever. They're trying to play like they're up 4-0. You know what I mean? He gets dispossessed, they get scored on a great counter. It was a great finish too, a really good goal. And then obviously at that point, now you're going to looking at extra time where anything can happen in extra time. You know what I mean? You concede, you get scored on once, and that's it. Everyone's gonna sit back, and you may never score. You may never see the ball again. You know what I mean? They're just gonna hold it. They're gonna do all those the dark arts as we call them, where you're just gonna waste time. You're gonna fake injuries. You're gonna pull a hamstring. All these things, and I think a team like France, you can't let it get to that moment. You can't let it get to extra time. This game has to be dead in the second half. It has to be finished, and they also didn't do that, and they allowed themselves to be put in this situation where it's pretty much do or die for them. And Jan Sommer's making crazy saves, like he was playing out of his mind. And I think
Yep.
if the Swiss went any further, he could have won the Golden Glove and been the player of the tournament as well. He was excellent, very very good for them, and he was instrumental for them to win this game, obviously. And then yeah, as I said, after extra time, you go to pens, and pens are a lottery. It's 50-50 flip a coin. Anything can happen. The best players in the world are gonna miss. The worst players can score. Me and you can go take a penalty against Jan Sommer, and we can both score. And Mbappe can miss. You know what I mean? He's a better player than both of us will ever be. But that's just the way that it goes in penalty shootouts. And I just think that you know they were too comfortable. They let it get to pens. They put everything on Killian's shoulders, and unfortunately for my man, I don't know.
See, fortunately, right? So I can push
For
my
your
agenda,
agenda, yeah.
my agenda here. But at some point, again, this is ego ball, and I don't know. Again, I'm not too sure if the coach was the one who put Mbappe as the last guy, or if Mbappe said, "Yo, put me at the last guy," so you can maybe wash away his sins. For the two worst chances I
Yeah,
have
I
ever
forgot about those as well.
possibly
I didn't mention
seen.
those. Yeah, you're right.
Awful. But again, at the same time, like what you have to think about is, like I said about Jota, you have to take a step back and say, am I going to do this? Like my country is on the line here. And again, if you look at the Italian players, uh, like you said, they will die on the field for their team. So if they're in
Yep.
a position like this, right, where their team is on the line, you probably think they're going to put it in the back of the net. I personally, from this France team, I personally would rather have, because Benzema doesn't usually play with two strikers. Okay, like we said, good players can play in any system, but if you can, kind of capitalize away where you're just playing one striker, maybe playing Mbappe more of the wing. He does go towards the wing, but again, he's still playing striker alongside Benzema, who's absolutely unreal. And that whole game, like I mean, unfortunately, in these tournaments, you'll see people play for their country and they'll turn into like players we've never seen before. Like Xhaka looked
Shakiri.
like one of the. Yeah, Shakiri does this every tournament. And then he always
Hmm.
gets signed to a different team after the tournament because they
Hmm.
think he's changed, but it's just
Hmm.
the same thing.
It's the same guy.
Jack,
Yeah.
yeah, Jaka has again. I'm telling you, anybody who doesn't believe me, go look at the summer after every single tournament that Shaqiri plays, and he gets signed to a different team every single time. He got signed to Liverpool right after a major tournament.
Bayern, Inter, Liverpool. Yeah.
Exactly, and if you look at like Jaka, he played like people might say he didn't, but he played like literally like he was Xavi, right? Like prime Xavi on that field, like that
Really good
pass,
game.
everything. Yeah, he played absolutely ridiculous, right? So if you look at, and that's just unfortunate that France had to be put up against the players who you play
Hmm.
like that. It's athletes who play for their club in any sport,
Hmm.
right? So, but it's just on in my eyes, it's just embarrassing for France to lose to a team like this, and it's really, again, I know I said this before about Portugal, but it's really underwhelming the way that they played. right? The whole tournament. A lot of ego ball, a lot of players just playing individually, not as a team. Again, the
Mhm.
rumors going into with Mbappe and Giroud, who Jude,
Yep.
again, regardless if Mbappe is better, who brings so much experience to the table. Okay, one of the clutchest players in football, right? Especially in the Premier League, and just too much ego ball, too much individualness compared to a team who, again, they have nothing to lose. Nobody expects them to win the whole thing. They don't. Nobody even expects them to beat you in the first place, and they just
Or
play
get out
out
of
of
the
their
group.
mind.
Shouldn't even be
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly, and they just play out of their mind, and unfortunately for France, it just had to be them. But again, maybe it'll teach them something, obviously in the future, especially with Zidane coming in, right?
I
So
definitely agree with that. It's a big lesson to learn for anyone really. Like you got to be humble the whole time, no
it,
matter who you
it's
play
it's
against.
humbling. It's
Yeah, no
humbling
matter
as
who you
well.
play against, you got to always give it your all. Otherwise, something like that can happen. So moving on now, on the same side of the bracket in the next round, keeping the theme here, Belgium, Italy. This game was awful for me. I hated every minute of it. It was very stressful. I thought that in the first half, Belgium had a lot of chances. They were looking really good, very solid. I'm gonna pull the bracket back up here so you guys can see. 2-1 Italy. All the goals scored in the first half. Like I was saying, Belgium was looking really good. They got a few lucky breaks on the Lukaku chance, if you guys remember, where he kind of like almost fake fell over and then got a shot away to Donnarumma, who he was excellent, such a good keeper that
Yeah,
game. He literally
yeah,
kept us
yeah.
in that game. The Lukaku save, where I think Verratti or Jorginho was gonna win the ball back and intercept the pass, but Verratti slid at it and he accidentally tipped it into De Bruyne's path, who laid it off to Lukaku. So things like that, obviously, it's pretty unlucky, but again, great save out of Donnarumma, and then he made another great save against KDB on his left foot on another
Hmm.
counterattack, which was crazy when Kevin just picks the ball up and runs up the field. It was insane, but I still thought that for the most part, Italy was a better team. We had a lot of chances as well. I think even though he was offside, Burla hit the post, and we were looking really good like the whole time. Obviously, and then uh, midway through the first half, Burla picks up the ball in the box, buries it on Courtois. We were looking pretty good. We were looking really in control. Insigne obviously picks the ball up on the left side, beats Tielemans,
Great
and
game as well. Yeah,
yeah, he
great
had a
game from
great
him as
game too.
well.
Him and Spinazzola were smoking them on the left side the whole game.
Hmm.
And I think that
Hmm.
England, when we get obviously a bit ahead of myself, but when we get to that game, you'll see how England set up to nullify that because that duo on each side of the left back, left wing, and the right back, right wing with the overload worked for Italy so well through the whole tournament. And I think that yeah, Insigne was really well, and I think that Insigne's goal actually sums up Belgium's team as a whole this whole tournament because I think that attacking wise, Mertens, Hazard, although he was injured, KDB, Lukaku, all these great players, right? Their biggest weakness was their midfield and defense. What Lorenzo Insigne did was he came up, he beat Tielemans, walks up to their 18-yard box and buries a shot on Courtois. That should never happen. Like I said,
Hmm.
the Italian players themselves would have literally died on the field before that shot ever even reached the target. And that's just the difference. Like they're just very weak in the midfield. They're very weak defensively, and it showed with the two goals. Like even the Barella goal, it's essentially it's a 1v4. He just does a little scoop turn and buries the ball in the bottom left corner, like in your own 18-yard box. You know what I mean? That should never happen. And I just think yeah, that pretty much sums up that team as a whole. I thought Doku was very good. I don't know if you
Yeah,
watched the full game, but he was so every time that guy picked up the ball. I think he's 19. He plays on Lille, who
yeah,
won Ligue
yeah. He
1.
played good for Lille too. Yeah.
He was good for Leo as well. Yeah, he was the best player on the field. I'm not kidding. Like, he was easily the best player on the pitch. Like Chiesa played that game, but he was kind of ghost. I'm not sure if it was fatigue or whatever because he actually played a really good the rest of the tournament. But just this game, they just did a really good job of like nullifying his threat. But man, Doku, he was very good. The one play where he did like three fake shots and put it over the bar, like I was literally about to lose my mind. I thought he was gonna score. Like he was excellent. I thought other the penalty itself was pretty soft, and I thought Lukaku was pretty much ghost town after his pen. I think that obviously, if you remember, Spinazzola before he got injured saved his shot off the line, and then Lukaku also got a deflection off Bonucci's foot, which he went to head and missed it. Two big chances that I mean you let those go away, and you lose the game 2-1, simple as that. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got for them.
Yeah, honestly, like going off kind of just, really quickly, just going off what you were talking about. Because again, biggest Italy fan that I know, they played great. But Belgium is the most, like every year in the international tournament is like one of the biggest flops ever, especially when their defenders and their midfielders were actually, basically in their prime, right? Like when you're
Mhm.
looking at, Vertonghen and Alderweireld,
Yep.
like these are some of the best. Like
They were
I think
good. Yep.
Alderweireld, like 4 years ago on Tottenham, I think he went through like 660 minutes without a foul. Okay, 660 in the Premier League. Okay,
Mhm.
so these guys are not bad defenders. Like they have obviously great experience under the belt, but now like these guys are old. They don't play anymore. You know what I mean? Like the midfielders, they're not fast. Like obviously Witzel has been here for quite some time, but I mean like when Doku's or Jeremy Doku is the best player on the field and he's 19, it just shows you that you have a lot of good young talent. Like Telemans is great. I have nothing bad to say about him. And obviously, Thorgan Hazard, again, younger player, right, compared to some of the players already on the field. When those players are playing great already, right? And the one thing, I'll finish my point here, but when these players are playing good already, you have to understand that, maybe you do have younger talent, right, that you're not playing, right, regardless if it's in the midfield or defense that you should be putting on, right, instead of playing, again, I hate to say it, but some of these dinosaurs, like, again, the center back that they played, Thomas Vermaelen, right?
Mm.
Where does he even play anymore?
Dude,
The
he
last
was
time
on Arsenal. Then I remember he was too old when he was on Barca. I forgot he was still around.
I think the last team that I saw him on was some team in the MLS.
I
And I am sorry, but if you are playing in the MLS, you should not be getting a call up.
no,
Like
yeah, I agree.
there's no, I'm sorry, like players go there to retire in the MLS, and you're
Mhm.
calling somebody up to play for your national team. I mean, like there's got to be something wrong there. I mean, I don't want to take away anything from Italy, but that's
No,
just
I agree with
that's just
that
what I'm saying there.
100%. I actually wasn't even scared. Well, obviously you're scared of their attacking threat, but I wasn't really worried about. I was more worried about Portugal just because of Ronaldo and the way that he is. He's kind of like Thanos, like he is inevitable, and I just feel like I wasn't too worried about Belgium. I think that it's unfortunate for them because they got third. They beat England and got third at the 2018 World Cup, and that was their time to win it. That was that. I think that was this golden generation because they never really had a generation like this before. Like Belgium,
Yeah,
small
yeah,
country. That was this gold generation's like time to win, and they didn't. They had Courtois, they had Hazard who was fit, they had all these guys: KDB, Hazard, Lukaku, Mertens was in his prime. All these guys that were in their prime, whoever else, Witzel, even Fellaini, like in Vertonghen,
Carrasco.
Alderweireld, Carrasco, all these guys. Keep naming the guys off the list. Meunier, all these guys, right? They were all in
Yeah,
their prime, and I think that 2014, 2016, too young, too young. 2018, that was their time to win. They didn't. Now, as you just said, Vermaelen, why is he getting a call up? Alderweireld, Vertonghen, you're too old. Like these guys, they're just past their prime. They're past their peak. Even Mertens, he's not past his peak. He barely got any minutes. I think that they just missed their shot in 2018, and now this team is pretty much somehow they were number one ranked, like we were talking about earlier, number one ranked in the
yeah.
world coming into the tournament, but they are
They always do
absolutely,
that.
yeah, they're absolutely not the number one team in the world, and they're definitely on the downhill
They
right
were
now.
not they were not the number one team in the world before the tournament.
No.
Okay, and and again, if I'm gonna have to complain to somebody because it happens every single major tournament where they just get number one every single time. Like again, the list that they come out with, just to quickly over that, I get honestly the top three is usually wrong and like interchangeable, but usually like the bottom seven makes sense. So whenever I see Belgium up there, I just know that it's going to be a bad tournament. Like the
Yeah.
the year that Belgium is like 10th, okay, they'll probably have like high hopes of like winning. But like every single time they're first, they just unfortunately just shit the bed.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I don't get that. But anyway, moving on. Keeping with the top of the bracket before I move on to the bottom, we'll quick fire England's games because they were a lot like the 4-0 Ukraine. We're not going to talk about too much. But quickly moving on to one of the most heart wrenching, stressful games of my life, but also not at the same time, which I'll explain, was Italy Spain 1-1, 5-3 on PKs. This game was pretty crazy. Spain obviously dominated possession. They had Oyarzabal miss that penalty, or sorry, not that penalty, that chance in the box where Emerson cleared it, which was like super, like that was a huge chance. And then obviously Danny Olmo got robbed like 8 yards out by Donnarumma, loaded was right, which again I could not believe my eyes when I saw that.
Yeah.
Spain was easily the best team in the first half. They were actually threatening, but I thought in the second half, even though Italy didn't have the ball, they were still in control of the game. Spain was playing in front of them, and like we were talking about earlier with Pep Guardiola teams, uh, and it's the kind of the Spanish philosophy, even with like Barca's tiki taka. They play with this false nine where he drops back and creates that, like I said, that overload in the midfield. Where Italy was playing a flat three with Jorginho, Barella, and Verratti, right? And you bring this forward back down, and now it creates this 4v3 in a diamond where no matter what happens, every time Italy gets the ball back, they can't build out because they're always outnumbered in the midfield, and it's super hard for them to get the ball forward. So they keep winning the ball back over and over again, and it looks like Italy is obviously struggling, and they are to a certain extent, but it's not like Spain was threatening them that often. It was just the fact that they couldn't get the ball, and they just kept Spain in
Yeah,
front of
Spain
them.
never loses the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just kept them in front of us, right? And we just let them play, let them move the ball. But as soon as it came near the box, it would just get removed. Obviously, it would get cleared. It would get blocked, whatever we had to do. Then obviously on the crazy counterattack where Insigne makes an outside the foot pass, Immobile couldn't get to it. Chiesa picks it up and scores an amazing goal out of nothing, out of literally nothing. I couldn't believe it. Like the 68th minute, it was scenes of glorious emotion for me. I was literally screaming my head off. And then obviously after that, Spain finally abused that false nine in those numbers in the middle where they made that 1-2 pass to beat Chiellini, send Morata through and behind, and he's able to score and tie it up 1-1. We go obviously to extra time, and in extra time, Italy, Spain, no one's conceding a goal. So then we see
Yeah.
pens after that, and we know what happens from there. But give me your thoughts on the actual game
I,
itself before pens.
honestly, you summed it up, right? Like they're not the most threatening team in terms of the attack, right? But they just don't lose the ball. Like you
Can't get
cannot
it off
take the
them.
ball from
Yeah.
them, right? But like in terms of everything else, and again, I hate to be this guy and I hate to be biased, but when you're, when your manager is bringing politics into your team, where you don't want to take a certain team's players, right? I mean, you kind of get what's coming, right? Like in a situation like this, you need somebody like a Sergio Ramos who needs to be in there, right? Who
Mm,
has so much
no
experience
matter
in
what.
winning,
Even though
right?
he's
So much
unfit, right?
experience.
He didn't play a lot at the end of the season. I think he was currently injured, and he just came back and maybe played one game. You take him no matter if he's injured with a broken leg in a cast, you bring him still on your
You
team.
bring them,
Yeah, he
yeah, and
comes.
again, I could be just kind of talking out my ass here, but I would take Carvajal over Azpilicueta, if healthy. I'm honestly not too sure, so like don't quote me on that.
I would too,
Um,
but
yeah, and like just like some of the players, right? But at the end of the day, like in my opinion, and I know we're going to talk about this at the end, but in my opinion, like Italy is the most deserving team, right? Again, if you look at Spain, France, on paper, like in terms of actual talent, right? You're taking a lot of these players over the Italian players. But
mhm,
in terms of like the discipline that these Italian players have and how much they love their country and what they would do for it, like these guys, don't stop running. Like Jorginho doesn't stop running. Verratti never stops running. Like these guys, regardless about what the score is at, right? They're not giving up. And that's the one thing that they're looking to do. And with this Spain side, again, they are young, right? Like a lot of the players, especially the attackers, are young. So I don't want to take anything away from them. This is going to be a scary, scary team in the future, especially with that attack with Dani Olmo, and Torres. So, but at the end of the day, with the coaching and the discipline that Italy have, like they're just the most deserving team. And unfortunately, Spain had to play them to get through, right? So, and unfortunately, they lost.
yeah. Just adding that before we move on. You're right with the Jorginho thing. I believe I'm looking at it right now. He ran in the whole tournament 86.6 km total. So that's like obviously 7 games, over 10 km per game you're running. And he's played pretty much every minute as well. Obviously, he had to stay on for all the extra time. He played 705 minutes for
Yeah.
all the extra times. The only game that he didn't really play a lot of minutes in was against Wales, which was essentially our gimme game where we played the whole B team. So yeah, I'm not sure if he ran the most KMs. I can't find that stat here, but he was up there in like the top three for most distance covered in the whole tournament. So yeah, like the whole midfield was just very mobile, like the entire tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And like you said,
God,
unfortunately, Spain had to play them, and
yeah, it
that's just
sucks
the
for you.
outcome. Yeah.
Okay, now we have Italy in the final. Moving on down to the lower side of the bracket, we're gonna talk about England. Now, like I was saying, guys, I don't want to talk about like the Netherlands Czech game too much or the Wales Denmark game. I don't want to take too much time here like talking about these games. I just want to talk about the big games. So obviously England Germany. Now, what I got for England Germany was Werner. Obviously, he had his classic miss early on in the game. I thought that both teams were actually threatening. I thought England was for some reason a bit more threatening than Germany was. I personally thought Germany would win this game like 2-3 nothing, like no question, because I just felt like
Yep.
they
The way they
were
played against Portugal was insane.
so good against Portugal, and I
Just
just thought, yeah,
all
if
over
if,
them.
if they could play like that, they're just too robust. They're like a machine, right? And you're just not. I just didn't see England. I didn't have any doubt that England would beat them, but obviously Warner had a classic miss, and I personally thought that Germany was gonna win up until I watched Muller miss that chance, and that's when I realized, like, yeah, like I think this team is just like they're just not gonna win. Like that was the biggest opportunity of the whole match, and you missing that just changed the match. You know what I mean? And I just felt like from then on, like there's no way they were gonna win. And obviously Kane scored late on. I think did Grealish assist it? I believe he did, and made it two
Yeah, I
nil
think
and
he.
that was that for them.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Going on to what you're talking about, like you're thinking that Germany, especially after what we've seen, you're thinking that these guys are going to win, especially with
Hmm.
the experience that they have. Like Mueller is, you know, somebody who he's a winner. Like there's nothing else that you have, but he's just a winner. But it was an absolute masterclass coaching, okay, by Gareth Southgate. Not even, not only did they win, they didn't concede, right? Which is the biggest
Until
thing here.
semifinal,
Like
yeah.
yeah, which is like the biggest thing. They did not concede, which is insane. But again, I think besides to name a few here, like Matt Hummels obviously played great, but like just to name a few, just looking at like the players who started, I don't think like one Germany player played better than one English player, and that's like
Yeah.
the craziest thing to think about. I thought it was I don't want to say complete domination, but it was definitely a quiet domination,
Hmm.
right? Like I mean, they're not scoring again 4 or 5 goals, but I thought every single player played great. Again, Raheem Sterling definitely in my team of the tournament, and I know we might talk about that later, but they played absolutely unreal. Jordan Pickford played great. Harry Maguire, and it's weird because this is a different formation than what they were playing before, right? So again, I'm pretty sure, but again, just an absolute masterclass about kind of how they played before to now. Because you're thinking Germany's just going to wipe the floor with them,
Hmm.
but obviously that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Then moving on now to the next match, which was just we'll very briefly touch on. I just have a few like 1 point basically to mention. So it was England Ukraine. They won 4-0. I thought that this was just a classic. Like Ukraine had no business being there. Only reason they were there is because they got lucky in the draw. They had to play Sweden, which Ukraine and Sweden are essentially like they're pretty close, I would
Yeah.
say. And anyone could have won that, and that's why obviously the Ukraine's there. Same thing with the Czech Republic on the other side of the bracket. Like just kind of the way that the things fall into place here in these tournaments. And I thought that after the first goal, England proceeded to score 3 headers off of crosses. Like I was saying earlier, it's the weakest goal to ever concede is a cross, right? Like good defenders, like first of all, you rarely let the cross even come in, but usually these crosses are coming in from deep, like deep corners, very wide, and you have a lot of time to read and react. And if you watch the goals back, like you'll see, like the defending for the Ukraine was just horrible, and that's the difference. It's essentially just because they're a lesser team, right? They're all these players on England, like if you talk about like their market value as just the team itself, I think England's team was the highest value team there at 1.2 billion, and I
Yep.
think
Mm.
Ukraine was like not even like 200 million. You know what I mean? Like they have Zinchenko, Malinovsky. That's it. Like all these like so they have no guys at the CB who have this high end experience of playing against these great players, and you just let Harry Kane dunk headers on you, and you let these balls come in across the box. Jordan Henderson scoring on you. Like it's just not a good
After the
look.
third goal, I stopped watching. Like I'm surprised it only stopped at 4, but after the third goal, I just turned it
I'm
off.
not gonna lie.
Couldn't
Harry
think about
Kane's
it.
first goal, when I think Sterling slipped him in and he just finished it, I knew right then it was over. I knew there was no way that they would come back and win.
Like you said, I just didn't expect Ukraine to kind of be in this position.
Yeah,
I don't want to take
exactly.
anything away from Ukraine. Like any team who made the tournament, it's a team of the best teams in Europe, or it's a
Mm,
tournament of the best teams in Europe, right? So the fact that they're there means that they're good. But at the end of the day, like with some of these tournaments, right, and especially the Euro Cup being one, it's a really big gap from the bottom teams to the top teams, and you saw it here with a 4-0 win. Obviously you've seen it with Italy versus Turkey, right,
mm,
like at the first game of the tournament. But I mean, yeah, I don't want to go too much in this one. There's really nothing to talk about
yeah,
except
nothing more.
complete domination. Yeah.
So next up, then England now is in the semifinal. They play against Denmark. I thought this was a really good game. I
Hmm.
thought Denmark actually could have won this game. I just feel like it's the same thing. It's kind of a similar story where Denmark just isn't a team that is ready to play against England, if that makes sense. Like they're just not like you look at the goal they score, right? And you have to work really hard and be super resolute defensively in order. It's like if you think of Atletico Madrid or a team like that, where like they're very well drilled and they're very locked down in the back, and they're not going to concede a lot of goals, right? So you look at Denmark, they score a great free kick, right? And that's where you're going to get goals against a team like England. Obviously, it's hard to score against them. They're the best defense in the tournament at the moment, right? You're not going to get an open play. You're not going to get many. You might get 1, 2 chances to score the whole game. So you take your chance and you score, right? And then you let a very weak through ball from uh, England midfield to go to Bukayo Saka on the right wing, and he crosses it in, and essentially it's a goal no matter what. If Kyer doesn't score the own goal, or I think it was Kyer, whoever it was,
Yeah,
Sterling's
it
right
was.
behind him to score anyways, right? So no matter what, it's going in the net. I think like that's a difference where a team like, for example, Italy, who are very resolute defensively, when we go up 1-0, we're not gonna, you're not losing. You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna lose that
Yeah.
game. Like those mistakes won't happen. Where a team like Denmark, they're not the same. That unfortunately that mistake happens. It's 1-1 now. I think Denmark played pretty well in defense. Like I said, the rest of the game though, I thought Kasper Schmeichel was excellent,
Yeah.
excellent
Unreal.
that game. He was very
Unreal.
good, kept them in the game. And I
Hmm.
thought that Denmark's only hope after about 105 minutes was you got to get the pens if you're going to win this game. Otherwise, it's chalk for
Yeah.
you because there's no way you're scoring a goal. Unfortunately, they gave up a pen. Could go either way. People were saying Gary Neville himself was saying it wasn't a pen. People were saying it was a pen. Whatever you want to look at it. At the end of the day, it was given. Schmeichel actually saved it, but obviously Kane scores on the rebound, puts Denmark away. And I mean, honestly, England were the better team, and I think they deserve to go through. So there's not really too much I could say about them winning.
Yeah. No, I thought like, and we talked about this before, but Denmark was my dark horse. I actually
Hmm.
thought they were going to go as even farther than this. I actually thought they're going to be the only team that beats England here. But the the worst part about it, like their downfall, basically Denmark was a textbook team. Okay, so each player, right, like they're three defenders. Again, you're not expecting these guys to make passes like Bonucci does over the top, or
Right.
play like a Harry Maguire. Where some games for Man U, he's playing like Cam, right, where he's making all these passes or center attack to mid. But the defenders they have, they're great defenders. The midfields are great midfielders. The only problem they had was their attack. Like Denmark, if Denmark had one world class striker. I don't even want like a full line of world class players. Just one world class striker. I think they would have won here.
Hmm.
Like it was like such a back and forth game. They're such a textbook team. Obviously, Holberg going into the team of the tournament, playing absolutely unreal. Delaney playing great.
He was good. Yep.
Dolberg. I mean, you talked about him. I don't even know who this guy is. Right. I guess that you could say I'm uncultured, but I don't even know where this guy plays, and he played great throughout the
Hmm.
whole tournament.
He was good.
With
Yep.
more experience, this guy's going to be a
Yeah, he
top
is young.
player.
Yeah.
It just wasn't their time to play this England team, and unfortunately that was the case, right? Because England ended up going through the win again. They stayed mentally strong, going all the way through 104th minute goal. The penalty, like you said, was it a pen? I mean, I don't want to. I'm not going to be the one to call it on on this video right here. But at the end of the day, pen's a pen, and he did go down and save it. But once the ball hits the back of net and it's 2-1, it's you got to think, you got to look at the future, right? You can't go back and talk about the pen. You got to put your chances away so that those chances don't happen.
Yeah, and obviously, just before we move on, again, talking about they need a world class striker, which I agree. If they had someone like Lewandowski, it's a whole different story. But they're also missing essentially their best player in the recent generations of Christian Eriksen, obviously, who had the heart attack in the first game that they played. I think it
Yep.
was the second match day. I
Hmm.
believe first match of the second match day. So obviously, thank the Lord that he's okay. Because if he wasn't okay, that could have been like this would have been like the worst Euros ever. So thank
That would
God
have.
that he's okay. Obviously after that, but I think he was a huge miss for them. Like his creativity and just like having his presence on the field, even on set pieces, corner kicks, dead balls, and even though Damsgaard scored a beautiful free kick, just like having him there, you can just definitely see that game looking a bit different. So I
Yeah, he
mean,
could.
it's
He can.
unfortunate.
He's one of the players, especially for a country where he can create from anywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they were missing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So yeah, now we are in the final. Okay, we've got pulling it back up here. We have England, Italy in the final. Italy obviously wins 4-3 on pens. It was a
to win the
1-1
whole thing.
game. Uh,
And I know you remember everybody talking trash about Italy before the tournament started. All these like huge news media outlets saying how they're not going to, they're not going to do it. And before, because I know you're going to get really, really in depth. So I'll just talk about what I thought of England first, and
yeah,
then
go
we
ahead.
can just wrap this up topic
Uh-huh.
with Italy here. But for England, I thought first half Italy got out coached. I think that's just what it was. Like they were playing a lot like teams like I saw Italy play a lot like teams like Liverpool, where basically they have like their midfield just stay in the middle and they just bomb up their fullbacks, right? So it's basically like you got two wingers,
Hmm.
right? Like, and that's how I saw Italy play from, or that's how I thought they played for most of the tournament. So when we basically did, or when Italy sorry, when England did that right off the bat, especially with the Luke Shaw goal, I thought that it was a wrap. I thought that England was just going to come out there, and after that first ball, I thought that this was it. Like I thought they really came to play. And again, we can talk about Kane not being no clutch factor. Again, this is your striker. This is if you want to become the best, you have to do things right in these kind of games. Obviously, Ryan Sterling I thought played great, but I thought England in the first half was the better team by far, and I thought that come second half that it was just going to be another complete domination. I did not think that Italy was going to recover from the first half. But again, there's not really much to talk about a team if you only play good one half.
I agree. Yep.
So you know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, that's just what it does. There's absolutely no change, right, in how they played. No change in tempo, intensity. No coaching tactics. Nothing changed. They thought that they were just going to walk through playing the exact same thing, and you think they would change in extra time as well. But again, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. That's a good point. So yeah, my take on it was obviously for me, international. The reason why I even started like I have obviously played soccer my whole life, but the reason why I started watching the sport was because my grandpa and like my dad would always take me. We'd watch Italy games together, like in the 2006 World Cup, 2008, everything, all the Euros, everything. We'd always watch, and I remember watching the 2012, all the whole 2012 Euros when Pirlo chipped Joe Hart in the shootout. I'll never forget that moment, even the game he had. And so the reason why I'm a Juventus fan is because Andrea Pirlo was my favorite player, and Buffon. I love Buffon, Marchisio, Chiellini, Bonucci. They all played on Juve, so that's why I started following Juve. I started watching Juve, and that's why I'm a Juve fan today. The rest of my family in Italy is from Florence, so they're obviously all Fiorentina fans, and like some of them are from Roma fans. But the reason I'm a Juve fan, like I said, is just simply because of that. They're the reason why I fell in love with the game. So for me, international trophies will always have more weight, no matter what, than club trophies. And most people, it's not like that, but just because that's why I love the sport, because of got into it by watching Italy. So this really meant a lot to me, especially having to watch us lose 4-0 against Spain. We lose on penalties against Germany in 2016. We don't qualify for the World Cup. I watched both legs of the Sweden tie where we lost. I'll never forget these moments. So it really came full circle for me. It was a big moment. Like I can't express to you guys how happy I was when they won, but it was hard for me to watch the game because my heart was beating through my chest the whole time. Like that I was sitting in these chairs. We were watching it outside in like a big on a big screen in like the a couple of streets closed off in our town. So, but I rewatched the game obviously. So what I gathered was, like you said, I fully agree. I think that it's kind of like Southgate knew the first 10 answers on an 80 question test, okay? And at the beginning, he had everything right. When the test started, bang, he's got everything right. Because what he did was, like I was telling you guys against Belgium, Italy plays with, it's a 4-3-3 with a flat three in the midfield. So the flat three are Barella, um, Verratti, and Jorginho. And they're all really good at recovering the ball and also retaining possession, okay? So what we do is we have them who can recover and retain. And when we let the wing backs, which would be Spinazzola, who got injured. So now Emerson and Insigne, and on the other side we have Di Lorenzo and Chiesa, who was arguably the most creative and like deadly player of the whole tournament, who we'll get to in a minute. And that was our threat on the wings. Okay, we have this overload on the wings where both these guys can play off each other, and that's how we create chances. So what Southgate did to nullify this was they played three at the back, five at the back. It was three center backs, and then Trippier and Shaw. So usually they would start with like Sancho started one game, Saka as a winger, and with four at the back. But this game they obviously did it to nullify Italy, and that's exactly what worked, and it worked to a T. In the second minute, what happened? England wins the ball back. Shaw picks it up, passes it to Kane. Kane comes low, swings it out to Trippier, and if you guys watch the goal back, Harry Kane is in the middle, in between Di Lorenzo and Chiellini, and Di Lorenzo's occupied, or Kane occupies Di Lorenzo, and then Luke Shaw is able to create the overload back post. He walks in, clips it back post, and since this moment I'll remember because Mancini, the Italy coach, was screaming at Chiesa for this, and it never happened again after this moment. But it's the second minute of the game, and obviously these little mistakes happen, especially in a final. This goal was Chiesa's fault because he didn't track back with Shaw, because we obviously knew they were playing five at the back. And because he didn't track back, Shaw's now free. Di Lorenzo can't get to him because he's occupied by Kane. Clips in, and it's a great finish, obviously. And at
Yeah,
that
yeah, it was a
time,
great goal.
when I saw that, I looked around to my friends that I was with, and I said, that's a great goal. And I knew right away that with the five at the back, overload back post, I thought to myself that Southgate might have done it. Like, he actually knows what he's doing, and he might have done it. Then I thought after that, I was getting flashbacks of 4-0 versus Spain and these weak goals we conceded in that final, and I'm thinking, like, no way it's going to happen again. But then I realized, like, we're playing England, man. We're playing England. Like, these guys, they just don't have what it takes, bro. They just don't have what it takes. And I remember, like, being really calm about that. And after about 20 minutes, I think England started to realize, like, yo, we're winning. Like, we don't have to score again. So they started sitting back, and I think that Italy really got a grip of the game, and they started to kind of play the way they wanted to play. They started getting the balls wide. They started, like, even though they weren't that threatening. I think Insigne had a free kick over the bar. Obviously, Chiesa picked up the ball and killed Declan Rice, skinned him alive, and then came in and shot that ball with his left foot off the right post. They didn't threaten anything other than those two chances, really. But I thought that we were just kind of more feeling ourselves. We're more back, like, in our groove, and the team was playing a lot better than at the first 20 minutes, right? Obviously, we're playing away at Wembley in their home in the first final they've been in since the 60s. So it's a big deal for them, obviously, too. So after those initial
Mhm.
nerves got away, I thought, like, especially in the second half, we dominated. I thought for sure there was no way we wouldn't win the game in regulation time in the 90 minutes. Especially after Bonucci scored, I said, like, there's no way we won't win this game now. We will win this game now because we were all over them. We were killing them. They couldn't touch the ball, and we were actually creating, like, dangerous chances. There was a few chances, like Bernardeschi, I think, or someone missed a free header, like in the last kick, on the last corner kick. There were so many chances where we could have ended the game. Obviously, went to extra time. Again, a chance
Mhm.
with Bernardeschi, close post where he almost scored, and he had a great game too. He also had a free kick that Pickford saved. Pickford played really well. I didn't even mention the save that he made on Chiesa before we scored the first goal, where he, like, fake shot it and then shot it low. Pickford got to it. So I thought the thing is, like I said, Southgate had the answers for the first 10 questions of this 80-question test, okay? The
Yeah.
rest he didn't know. And that's where a great coach comes in, because I remember Allegri did this versus Tottenham where we were losing and he made a change and he won the game, okay? It's because he took off a winger, put on a right back, and helped the balance of the team, won the game. So similar thing where Mancini's making these subs, he's starting to boom, pulling people out. He's pulling Chiesa, you're gone. This guy's coming in. He's putting Brian Cristante. I hate Brian Cristante. He puts him on. He had a great game because he knew, okay, this game needs these players, and he's making these changes. Southgate didn't make any changes till extra time, made no changes. So
Mhm.
he did this before as well. We are talking about this with Oli. It's the same thing where, like, these managers that haven't really won anything yet, they don't understand, like, how to influence a game on from their substitutes, right? So when he made those
So
changes,
it's
we're just
in
killing them the whole
tactics.
time. Yeah, in the tactics,
In
yeah,
tactics.
because we changed everything. When you take off Chiesa, we put on, I think, Belotti. For a minute, we took out Immobile and put the first sub was Immobile came out. We put on Domenico Berardi and had Chiesa play as a striker. Okay, and then we had Berardi on the right wing, Insigne and Chiesa, and that again created the overload in the midfield with the false nine, and we kept winning the ball back, winning the ball back, winning the ball back, recovering, kept attacking, and attacking over and over, and we just knew that there'd be another goal coming soon. I think didn't I think Berardi scored, but it was offside as well, or he might have missed or something. He had after we scored, I think he what's his name? Chiesa laid off Berardi and Pickford made another great save. And I think we were
Yeah.
just after that we were just so many chances, like, over and over again. And I thought we'd win the game for sure. Obviously, then it goes to pens, and like I said, it's a lottery. Anything can happen. So Kane
And then
scores.
obviously like the weird selection at the end with like three players who haven't
Yeah,
played at all, and then they
right.
just
And
come in and they make
I
the.
get, so obviously, just in case anyone who doesn't know, Italy obviously won the penalty shootout, where England scored the first two, Italy scored, then missed, and then Italy scored two, England missed three in a row, and then that's why Italy won, obviously.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah,
Here,
I
let me
I
just
don't know.
I'll just go over these stats for you really quickly so you can see the difference, right? So obviously basically Italy had more possession, right, throughout every single half,
Hmm.
right? So first, second, first time, extra time, right? They had more possession, right? Obviously, that's not like the biggest things ever, right? But again, let's look at so in the first time you guys had 6 total shots, 1 on target, 4 shots off target, 1 blocked shot. You had more offsides, more shots outside the box, more accurate passes, more passes in general in
Hmm.
the first half, right? So like you guys are still looking good. Again, more tackles, more interceptions, and I don't really want to say that looks better on one team than it does the other because it obviously shows that if you have more tackles and more interceptions,
Just
that
paints a
the other
picture.
team
Yeah.
the other team is attacking more where you have to get the ball off of them to begin with,
Hmm.
right? But then if you look at the second half, so you have so first half you had 65% possession, right? It's not going to be that much different, but you still had 70% more possession in a final. Or
Hmm.
sorry, not 70 possession more,
Oh,
but you had
70%
seventy
total.
percent
Yeah.
to 30, right?
Yeah.
And just in the second half. So, and this is in a final.
Away from home.
Okay. Yeah, this is away from home. You had 8 shots on target, 4 shots on goal. Again, you did have more yellow cards, but then you also had more big chances. You did have more big chances missed. Again, more shots outside the box, and then absolutely destroyed in passes made, accurate passes, long balls, crosses, more dribbles, more clearances. And again, this is when like I was talking about before in the first half, where you have more tackles and interceptions because now Italy has it more, or England has more tackles and more interceptions, just showing you that like one team has the ball more in one half, and then totally on the opposite side here, Italy just switched up. Way better coaching. Again, I want to come down to some of the players, but I thought that again, like we said, Italy is willing to die to win these
Hmm.
games, right? And you're having players like Chiellini, like Bonucci, who've been in places in games that most of England's team have not even been close to,
Yep.
right?
That's
So the
very true.
experience and mental strength is just
This
insane.
team's like these players have lost the final before together. Like Bonucci and Chiellini lost that final together already in against Spain in 2012, and they come back
Yeah,
again. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to lose again. And but no, you're right. Like I think I saw Spinazzola after he got injured against he tore his Achilles or ruptured his Achilles against Belgium. What he did was essentially he just was running down a ball. He picked up the ball and then kicked it around their right back and was running to try to gain yards for the team, right? Trying to get us up the field because they're obviously attacking us and he's trying to relieve the pressure. Pulls his or tears his Achilles and he said afterwards, he said, like, I got my injury because I was working for the team trying to gain us 1 extra yard, and I'll do it. I'll happily rupture it again for that 1 extra yard. And like, I think that really epitomized, like, that is what this group is. Why this group is so special to me is that they were all good friends. They all love each other, and they would all do that. Any one of them, from the the keeper all the way to the strikers, the whole reserve bench, every single player would do that if it meant that we could win, even if they would do that no matter what. If they got the chance to give themselves for the cause, they would do it. And I think that's like
yeah,
the big difference. Like you can't teach that. You can't ask for that. You can't even like tell someone like you have to do this. Like it's either in you or it's not. And it was in
no,
these
no,
guys.
and for sure. And the thing is, that they're willing to do that for any game,
Yeah, any game
right? Like even
against
if
any
it's
opponent.
not the final,
Yeah,
you know what I
any
mean? Even if
opponent.
it's not in the final, they're still willing to do that.
Austria,
And again, it's
Wales,
the
they'll do it
first
against anyone. Yeah, they don't
yeah,
care.
yeah, yeah. And again, at the end of the day, the way I see it, and again, I know we share different opinions on this, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's not always like this, but I always see it the best team wins,
Yeah,
right? And again, obviously, it's not like that every single time, but the
most
way I
times.
see it, most times the best team wins the
And
game.
I think fair. It was fair enough. Obviously, Italy had a hard path, not the hardest path, but a
Mhm.
good path. Austria was a good test. Belgium was a good test. Obviously, Spain was a good test, and England. You know what I mean? It's not like we beat, for example, England, who they beat Germany, which was obviously not the same Germany that we know from years
Yeah,
past, especially
yeah,
recently. They were pretty poor this tournament, especially. Then they beat Ukraine, Denmark, which are it's just not the same. You know what I mean? So no, I agree. I agree with that.
yeah,
And then just to end this off, obviously, so we're talking about the pen selection, and you really like you see Bonucci taking a pen for us. You see Bernadette taking pens. You see Domenico Berardi taking pens, Bellotti taking a pen, Jorginho. These are all like seasoned vets. These guys are all in their late
yeah.
20s
Like not a
taking
lot of
pens.
people, I don't think are gonna know Barati, but he is like he's been here. Like he's an
No, yeah,
older guy,
he's like
but he's been
27.
here.
He's been on Sassuolo his whole career, but he was Italy's best player in World Cup and Euro qualifying the past 2 years. He's been very good, excellent. That's why Chiesa didn't start the tournament because he was displaced because Berardi was so good you couldn't not play him. I think he scored in every qualifying game for like the last five or something. Like you can't not play that guy
As a
if he's
winger too.
yeah, as a winger if he's playing that
Yeah, and
you
he's not
can't
even a
not play him.
striker.
It's just the way that it
Yeah.
is. But I think that I don't know. I think that Southgate looked at the Pens a bit too um what's the word I want to use? Like robotically almost. Like not like he didn't really take into account like the human aspect and like that like the grit and like the
The
experience,
mentality.
the mentality, the mental strength. Yeah, that's what I was looking for exactly. Because they probably took pens and they probably realized, okay, Saka and Kane are our best pen takers, so they're gonna shoot first and last because they're our best pen takers. And maybe Saka scored 20 for 20 in training. Okay, that's fine. And then they say, okay, yeah, you know what, Saka, Southgate said, do you want to shoot? He said, yes, I want to shoot. You been shooting them good. Okay, you'll shoot. And I think that it's just the wrong decision. Like he just goes to shoot, and the pressure got to him. It was a horrible pen. Like it was a any pen that's in that like middle height. The goalie is pretty much like these are top keepers. They're gonna save it every time. You know what I mean? Unless he guesses the wrong way. If he goes anywhere near it, he's gonna get it every time. And unless it's in the bottom corner or top corner, he's gonna get it if he goes the right way. You know what I mean? And you see that with Maguire's pen and even Bonucci's pen, where Pickford went the right way, but he sniped it in the corner. You're never gonna get it. You know? So yeah, I think that it was a horrible decision to bring Rashford and Sancho on just to shoot pens for them to both miss. And then obviously Saka, he's 19. Like when I was standing like this arm in arm with all my friends on during the game in the penalty shootout, and when I saw Bukayo Saka step up after Jorginho missed, I was so down in the dumps. And when I seen him step up, I looked over and I said, guys, this kid's 19. There's no way he scores. I promise you, Gijo has this. There's no way he's gonna score. And obviously, the rest is history. Thank God. John Donnarumma saved it. Didn't even know he won the tournament. Won the
Yeah,
tournament though, so that was pretty
it's
crazy.
yeah, it's again the and me myself, like I said, I definitely don't want to dip into the past, but again, this is a humbling experience for a lot of these players,
Mhm.
especially, and it's definitely a life changing experience,
Mhm.
especially what these players have to go
Mhm.
through afterwards, right? In terms of their fan base, but again, like this team is, some of the players are definitely some of the youngest players we've seen, right, play at this, this type level, this good. You know what I mean? Like we've seen 19-year-olds play, but are 19-year-olds this good at this level,
Mhm.
right? So this England team, they're definitely gonna be a lot scarier in the upcoming tournaments that they have, right? So
I
that's like
agree.
the good thing. But again, like we talked about Belgium, unfortunately, this just wasn't their time. It's a
Mhm.
different case compared to Belgium because Belgium, their time was in 2018 and they're far gone now. But I'm thinking, definitely, I don't think the World Cup, but again, if you're looking kind of in the future there with the amount of experience that these players will get, they'll learn, the grit, the mental strength, stuff like that. And maybe Southgate will even also learn as well when you have to switch up a performance and you got to know your players, right? Just because somebody says they want to take a penalty doesn't always mean you put them right in the penalty spot with your team, the country just on their back there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So now with that, moving on, we're gonna go to the Euro team of the tournament. Okay, so I'm gonna read you. Actually, I'll pull it up what the team of the tournament was, and then I'll give you mine, and you give me yours. All right.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I have it right here online. So the official Euro team of the tournament was Donnarumma, Kyle Walker, Leo Bonucci, Harry Maguire, Leo Spinazzola, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Jorginho, Pedri, Federico Chiesa, Lukaku, and then Raheem Sterling. So with that, I personally would have a few changes. Um, a couple of changes with that. I don't know about you. So my team would be Donnarumma, Mila from Denmark, the right back, Leo Bonucci, Chiellini, Spinazzola, Jorginho, then Højbjerg, Gini Wijnaldum, Chiesa, Patrick Schick because he was 5 goals, and then obviously Ronaldo, who's the top goal scorer.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. I like this team too. What I'm going for, I'm going Pickford and net
Mhm.
for the sole reason that he won the Golden Glove.
Mhm.
Okay, I know there's a lot of things to take into consideration, but when you're winning the Golden Glove, obviously you're doing something right,
Mhm.
right? I do have obviously Donnarumma and Schmeichel definitely in, basically close second in there. I'm taking off Kyle Walker. I'm putting Luke Shaw, but I'm keeping Bonucci, Maguire, and Zinazola.
Mhm.
I thought Hoiberg played great. I would actually put Pogba there instead
Hmm.
because I think every single game that Pogba played was 10 out of 10. Like he played absolutely unreal. Keeping Jorginho because he played absolutely ridiculous, especially coming off the amount of games that he played with Chelsea.
Hmm.
Okay, he's not coming off, you know, with a shorter season, right? With all the games that he played with Chelsea, still coming in and playing this great. I understand why they put Pedri there, but again, I'm taking him out, and I'm also putting Wijnaldum for the sole reason that he was basically their team,
Hmm.
right? As basically in the attack and on defense, he was basically their team. I'm keeping Sterling. I thought he carried England for most of the games, but same thing as well. I'm putting Ronaldo top goal scorer and Sheik up there as well.
Yeah, so or a little backstory on my picks at least, like going from top to bottom. Ronaldo scores 5 assists, one. No matter what, you're the top goal scorer of the tournament. There's no way you're not in the team of the tournament. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter how far your team goes. If you're the best player in the tournament, you should win the award for being the best player in the tournament. And he obviously scored the most goals. He should be in the team, in my opinion. Patrick Schick again. Czech Republic's not a great team. They didn't do that well,
Played
but
great.
he played great, and he scored the
Mhm.
goal of the tournament. That goal from half, like, he scored 5 goals. That's a lot of goals in a European tournament, man. Especially when you're only playing 3 games, 4 games. It's a lot. It's a big feat.
And no disrespect, but when you're playing for Czech, I mean, they're not the most creative team in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And you're still scoring these
yeah.
goals.
So then obviously now I have Chiesa in there. You really, if you're gonna put Chiesa in there with what I just said, you could put Insigne in there. You could put anyone who scored 2 goals. He only scored 2 goals, but I thought that he was so influential for this Italy team, and I don't think we would have won if we didn't have him as a threat on that field, especially with his goal against Austria and against Spain. Just for that alone, and obviously because of my bias, I have to put him in there. Like you said, Genie Wijnaldum was excellent for Netherlands. It's unlucky that obviously Delik got the red card and they got knocked out by the Czechs. I think that this Netherlands team could have actually gone farther had that not happened. But like we said, it's a knockout tournament, so anything can really happen. And you get
Mhm.
unlucky. That's the way that it is. But I thought he had a great tournament. He deserves to be in this team. Hoiberg could arguably be the best DM of the whole tournament. He was excellent. Every single game he played very, very well. I never seen this level from him, even at Spurs. I never thought he had this level in him. I thought he was very good. Jorginho, like we said, he covered one of the at least top 3 most distances across any player of the whole tournament. He was very, very good. Passes completed. Just the way that he would retain the ball, recover the ball, he was excellent for us. So I thought obviously he had to be in there. Now, you could actually argue that Denzel Dumfries from Netherlands should be in over Spinazzola because he actually had a very, very, very good tournament, very impactful for the Netherlands as well. But I think, and it's unfortunate he got injured, but that is part of it still. But I think that Spinazzola was by far the best player of the whole tournament up until his injury, and I think that he would have continued that, and he would have easily been the player of the tournament had he not got injured, and Donnarumma obviously got the award afterwards, which could go either way with him. Donnarumma getting that award, obviously, but I don't know. Like for me, it's hard not to include an English defender because they had clean sheets every game up until the semifinal where they conceded a set piece and the final where they conceded a set piece. You know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of unfortunate that those goals, but I think that Spinazzola was just much better than anyone else in the tournament. I can't not have him in here, and I just think that
Yeah,
Chiellini
he
and
was.
Bonucci were both just better than Maguire was. Like they just were, in my opinion. I think that the way that they played the whole tournament was just better than and more impactful than what Maguire and whoever in Stones or whoever else did. I just think they have
Mhm.
to be in there. And then obviously Joachim Mila, the Atalanta boy. I actually watched him a lot because he plays in Serie A, and he's really good. Like he's just really good. He had a great tournament. He was on the wing. I think he actually played left wing back, but either way, he was very good, and he was just causing problems, scoring goals, getting assists, and he had a great tournament. And then obviously Donnarumma, he's the only reason why we won the tournament. He made save after save that saved us against Belgium with Kevin De Bruyne and Lukaku, against Spain again with Dani Olmo in the final. Like he made so many 3 pens, obviously 2 saves and 1 miss. Like, and he saved Morata's pen. Like we wouldn't be here without him. So I think there's no way you can include him for me. So that's the reasoning behind my team.
No, yeah, I see
Yeah.
that. Again, quickly just going over mine. Obviously, Zinazola, like you said, you know, definitely in the top 5 players of the
He
tournament.
was
Like just played
great
absolutely
until he got
unreal.
injured.
And yeah, in any way. Again, Maguire, just for me, I personally think Maguire is like just a lot of this tournament really showed people how actually good he is.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter who's playing
I
around
thought he
him.
was good too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like obviously Benucci, like they won,
Yeah,
right?
he
Based
scored
off,
scored in
and
the final too.
yeah, they won based off defend, especially their defense, right? Again, like I said, putting Pickford in because of the sole reason that he did win that Golden Glove, and I know it also comes down to defense, and Donnarumma has saved them, but just from what I've seen, I thought that Pickford being the person in the back telling his defenders where to go and what they need to do. For the times that he did, obviously, he did seem pissed every single time he did have to make a save. But what do you expect? You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like the last thing you want to do is have to make a save when you're a goalie, right? But
yeah,
from what I've seen, I definitely put him in there.
no, that's fair
Uh,
too.
Luke Luke Shaw for me is just like was head and shoulders above Kyle Walker. Like I thought Kyle Walker was good for sure. But especially when he was playing in like this, because they played three at the back with Kyle Walker, right,
CB.
as their center back.
Yep.
But he wasn't even playing the middle one; he's playing the right one, obviously, because you know how fast he is.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like he wasn't really creating anything besides some of the chances or some of the passes that he did make when he switched over to right back.
Hmm.
But that's why I have Luke Shaw. Like especially he scored. Luke Shaw scored in the file, played
Yeah.
absolutely unreal with the
No, he
chances that he
he he
created.
got better as the tournament went on too. Like every game he got
Yeah,
better.
exactly right. And Pogba obviously being in there because, like I already said, he had basically every single performance Pogba had was 10 out of 10 for me. I actually thought again he's in top five for sure.
He had a great
Um,
tournament. You think about that Trivella pass when he Trivella passed it to Pavard, I think, who crossed it in for the own goal against Germany when they won 1-0. And then obviously he's influential against every team he played. Like he was excellent. So yeah, I thought he was good too.
Yeah, when you like we brought up before about some players, just creating chances just absolutely nothing, right?
Hmm.
Second, obviously we were talking about Wijnaldum since we both had him kind of on our team there. Uh, and who did I say? I said Wijnaldum, Pogba, and because I took Hoiberg. Oh, and then Jorginho was
Jorginho,
already
yeah.
in the team. Jorginho, uh, there's no words, right? Like if you watched the tournament, you watched Italy play, you already know Jorginho should be in there. I mean, you could honestly probably replace him with Verratti or you know Bradley, right? But like I thought Jorginho just because he was like the center. He played. I think he played the best out of all of them. But you can honestly interchange
Consistent.
any of them, right? Sterling, like I already said, and again, if Jorginho and Sterling were like the two players that if you watch the tournament, there's just no discussion or explanation you need to have on
Hmm.
why you would put them in the team of the tournament, right? Sterling just carried them all the way through. And then you have obviously Ronaldo, the best player of all time, best goal scorer of all time, the most goals, and Czech again. Just the reason why Czech went that far is because those goals were scored,
Yeah,
right? So
100%.
that's exactly why I have the team the way I do.
Fair enough, brother. Fair enough. Now, moving on to our last topic, okay? Now, this is a good one. It's a juicy one.
This is the best one we
For sure
definitely
going to be
have.
clipped up. Now,
Yeah.
the question I'm going to pose to everyone watching this video right now, if you're still watching with us, or if you're watching the cut up clip that we've posted later on, would Italy have won the Euros if it was played in 2020 instead of being postponed for COVID and moved to 2021? So, do you want to go first or should I?
I'll go first. I'll go first. I'll give my explanation. Uh, I'll go first. I'll just say yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to say
And then
no.
and you're gonna say no. And let me explain why I would say yes and why they would win. Okay. And it's weird because you're obviously the Italy fan. And I wanted England to obviously go through and win it. But if we go over basically how this is how I see it. Right. I don't really when I say I think Italy would have won, it's not because obviously half the reason is because I think Italy is a great team last year and this year as well. Right. But I actually just look at the competition that they had compared to last year to this year, right? Like just getting things out of the way. Like we said, Belgium, not their time. I know it was a close game, right? But I think last year they would have, in my opinion, they would have played worse. I thought Lukaku was in firm this year. This was the year where he made a difference in the
Very good
league.
this year as well.
This
Mm,
is a difference where he, internationally, I think this is the best tournament he's had,
mm.
right? It just looked absolutely unreal. But like we talked about their center backs already, they should not be there. Okay, Alderweireld too old. Thomas Vermaelen, like I don't, I like I said, I don't even know where he plays anymore. Right, and you're getting this guy to support your country. And I know that doesn't make the most sense, but if you watch football, you really understand. Like there's the top five leagues for a reason, and a lot of the players come from there.
Hmm.
Right, especially for these teams. And again, if you're taking Vertonghen, again, these guys are chalked. They're washed. They should not be playing. Like I said, I know it was a close game between this Italy team, But I thought Belgium were better this year than they would have been last year, especially per players. The only exception is like they're obviously Kevin De Bruyne, who's fantastic last year. Didn't play. He played great this year, but didn't play as good as he did last year. I mean, he was basically player of the year and in UEFA's team of the year, right? So just that alone just shows you. And I'm not going to go through every single team, but I'll just go over like I said, the competition, some of the star players, right? Again, if we move on to the next one, Portugal, like we talked about before, I think Jota, maybe he would have been played. Maybe he would have been better last year if they played because he wasn't in form. He played half the amount of time, right? He only played like 1,100 minutes throughout the whole season compared to last time we played about 2,000. Um, but at the end of the day, like Bruno played absolutely unreal this season. Like this
Mhm.
was a season Ronaldo top scorer,
Mhm.
right? And it didn't even come down to basically like their full team not doing it. I thought their defense was great. I thought Pepe was great. Ruben Diaz, he's young, so he obviously makes the mistakes of somebody who doesn't have the experience, right? But I honestly just thought the team just came down to how they lined up. Like we brought it up before, playing with two dinosaurs of defensive mids, right? And then you're playing with so many attacking players. How are they going to create anything, right? These are not like I said. These guys were old back when they won, and now you're playing them now. So that didn't really make any sense to me. They played a lot better once they switched up and they started playing Renato Sanchez and these players. But I think the reason why they lost had nothing to do with kind of what year it was, right? I feel like it came down to basically how they lined up there,
Yeah.
right? And then I don't know if you want to jump in before I go on, but yeah, it's just like other teams as well. Like I thought this was England. A lot of the players on England played better this year, right? Um, compared to last year, right? And I feel like France. Okay, I feel like if we want to talk about them really quickly, I feel like France played a lot of their French players, right? Pogba injured last year, so he played half the time. He had like 3 injuries in 2019 to the 2020 season, where he was out for like one of the injuries, he's out for like 160 or 186 days,
Mhm.
right? And so I don't really expect him to jump into this team and played like he did right
This
this
year.
year.
Yeah.
All right, if we're looking at some of the star players, right? Mbappe, last year or this year he had 31 games with 27 goals in League One alone. Okay, just in League One, and 7 assists. Okay, he played 2,300 minutes compared to last year. We only played about 1,500. Right, so like this was the year where he looked absolutely ridiculous. Again, and the Champions League 10 game, he had 11 goal contributions in 10 games. Right in the Champions League, like that's unreal.
Mhm.
Right, so you're thinking that this has to be the year,
Mhm.
right? That he's going to really do something in this tournament. And I don't think they would have had Benzema last year as well, who's again a top player. Conte, who just came off a Champions League winning team, right, is also on this team as well. Again, Varane, who's coming in to this team again. Whether which year it is, he's always going to be good. But again, that's France and as well, right? Like you're expecting them, whether what year it is, you're expecting them to be good,
Mhm.
right? So I'm not really seeing it as Italy wouldn't have been good enough last year. I just feel like the competition is just last year wouldn't have been as good as it was this year. Like this year, if there's anything, it could have been whoever won,
Yeah.
right?
I agree.
Lukaku played out of his mind. Uh, Kevin De Bruyne played, didn't play as good this year. Does he really show up for his country though? You know, again, I hate to say it. And again, I'm shameless myself, but for me personally, I don't see him basically coming in for most of his country there. But again, Paul Pogba played unreal. Basically like I said, the way I see it, I do not see the competition being better last year than it was this year. So seeing Italy still win it with kind of with the team that they had now, because the players on Italy are going to be the same no matter what year it is. Like we said, they will die for their country. They will,
Mhm.
on
Everyone.
the
Yeah.
field,
No matter what.
right? Chiellini and Benucci are getting older,
Mhm.
right, throughout the years, right? So at the end of the day, the way I see it, if you get Italy and you play them a year before, the competition is just generally going to be worse, right? So I see them winning, last year
Anyways.
as well as I see them this year.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right, and I think that that's a good point too. Like, obviously, the COVID thing benefited younger teams, obviously, because it gives all these players another year under their belt, and then it hinders older teams because, like I said, no one's getting any younger. So these players, just like Vermaelen and Vertonghen and all their Vayat, they're just getting older. But so the thing is with me, I think that Italy wouldn't have won last year. I think that we needed that extra year to win. Now, give you a few reasons, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why your take is actually valid as well. Because like we still the team on paper would have actually been better last year, but I don't know if we would have won it still. But so 2018, we don't qualify for the World Cup, okay? And we have Ventura as the manager. He gets sacked, obviously. I'm surprised he didn't get hung by his feet in the streets of Rome. He should have, but so we wait until that
We
was
don't
in.
promote violence,
We don't
though.
promote
But
violence,
again,
but I'm
there's
just
some
saying.
consequences to your actions.
I'm just saying. That's surprising to me, especially in Italy. But nonetheless, so that was in December of 2017. So we now go fast forward to May of 2018, I believe, or June. Mancini gets announced. He leaves Zenit and he comes to Italy to take over. So now he's got 2018 up until 2020 to get the team ready. And I think that the team was too young and Mancini didn't have enough time because remember, even though it's 2 years, you're only playing together 2 games every 3 months. You know what I mean? There's an international break. You play a couple games for qualifiers, you leave. You know what I mean? So the managers don't have a lot of time with these teams. So it's hard for them to that's why international football is a lot lower quality than club football because the teams don't have a lot of time together. So it's hard to implement your ideas. That's why it's very like interesting to see teams like Spain how they play with such a identity, and so does Italy as well. Even England do it the same way. Where other
It's
teams
the
like
philosophy, though,
yeah,
of like the actual country.
I agree, and the Dutch are the same way with that too. But it's hard to implement that like your play style into the players, especially in a short period of time. So I feel like he needed more time with these players in order to really instill the way he wants to play three like flat, the wingers, the overloads, like all this stuff that he wants like the players to do. I think that last year Chiesa was on Fiorentina still. He wasn't ready. I think that Locatelli, who scored 2 goals against Swiss when we won 3-0, wasn't ready. He wouldn't have been called up last year, by the way. I think that Di Lorenzo, right back, who filled in for Florenzi, wasn't ready. Donnarumma was 20, wasn't ready, in my opinion. Pessina, who scored twice, scored against Wales when we won, and scored the winning goal against Austria, wasn't ready, wouldn't have been called up. He's only like 22 at the time. And Verratti was injured last summer as well, so he wouldn't have been at the tournament. Now, we go into this Euro, and we're actually missing 3 key players. We're missing Stefano Sensi, who is legitimately starts or would have been coming off the bench every time for us. He got replaced by Pessina, who scored 2 goals, like I said, and he actually was very, very impactful for the team. We're missing Lorenzo Pellegrini, and then we're also missing Nicolo Zaniolo, who Nicolo Zaniolo would have started over Chiesa on the right wing had it been 2020 and he wasn't injured with his ACL tear. So I think the team with Zaniolo, especially like I don't know if you've ever seen him play because he's on Roma and he's young. I think he's 98. I think he's 22 or 23, but he's very good. Like he's really like I'm telling you, he's gonna be so good, especially when he returns from injury. He would have been a lock on our team for 100% starting on the right wing. So having him gone was a huge miss. But like I said, luckily for us, Berardi stepped up, Chiesa stepped up. Di Lorenzo stepped up, Donnarumma stepped up, Pessina stepped up, Verratti was great. Everyone that played was great. And I think that yeah, this team, it was a very diverse group, kind of like how England was too, of players from different clubs. Juve players, you have Inter players, Napoli players, all these different like clubs. You know what I mean? That you normally hate each other, all come together. And I just think
I'm
that
fine.
all this time with the team and having the extra time together just like strengthen that bond, and that's what like propelled us to win this tournament, and that's what I think no other team had a bond or a connection in these relationships like our team did. Where like I'm sure none of you guys have seen because I wouldn't expect you to if you don't follow the team, but like I'll see videos of like news reporters posting like all these guys singing Notti Magiche, which means magical nights. It's a song. The whole Italy team is outside their hotel singing it together. Like they're just like always doing stuff together. They're always like cracking jokes, making fun. Like Immobile, Verratti, and Insigne all played on the same team in Serie B, Pescara in like 2011, and they got promoted to Serie A together. Like they've been friends for all these years. You know what I mean? Like all these guys, like they know each other for so long, and like I think that just this extra time with the group and everyone getting to know each other and everyone just coming together and really forming this bond, I think that's what helps us win this year. And I think last year we just simply weren't ready. We just needed more time. And going off what you said too, some teams got better this year and some teams got worse, right? Like I think that, for example, Netherlands and even Spain last year weren't as good as they are now, and even the same with France. I would agree too. I think Belgium would have been better last year too. England, same thing. So like, it goes either way, really. But I just,
Mhm.
in my opinion, like I think either one's good because it's a knockout tournament. Like I said, at the end of the day, so anyone can really win. But I think we weren't ready. You say we were. Either way, I think is valid,
Yeah,
anyways.
no, for sure, and that's the thing, right? Like I was saying before, the way I see it, if you want to come down and saying, somebody's ready or somebody isn't, when you get called up, and most of these players, right, this is the way they say it, when you get called up for your country, right, again, you're basically going to be ready no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
right, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how it is for the for players in their country, right. So I mean, like, if you watch, like, even for the people who play for Turkey, right, they getting the call up means absolutely everything for them,
Yeah.
right. So like, being ready, I think, is not as big as the problem is the actual competition that you're playing, because at the end of the day, like, a lot of, if we look at, like, the best players in the world, being, let's say, they're quote unquote not ready for a game, they're just at that level so much that whether they're ready or not, they're still going to perform. That's like the way I see it. Like, when I see somebody who's, quote unquote not ready, but when you're at the stage, like, obviously Ronaldo's and the Messis, those are a little bit different. But let's say, like, somebody like Lukaku, for instance, he's always going to put the ball in the back of the net because
Mm-hmm.
that's who he is, right? So I think it just comes down to, in my opinion, more form, right? Or I guess you can say that is the same thing as being ready, but I think it comes down to form. Like, a lot of these people, are basically, or we're more in form this year, right? Than they were last year. So the fact that they won it last year with these players being more informed just kind of shows what level that they're playing at as a team.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like I was gonna say, like, but that's what I essentially meant, like in form as to not ready. Because you look
Mhm.
at Chiesa, he was on Fiorentina last year, so comes this year, comes to Juve. Everyone thinks he's gonna be a flop. He's gonna be another Bernardeschi. He's gonna be a waste of 40 million. All this, and he comes in. He scores 3 goals against Porto. He scores 2 goals against Milan when we played Milan when we were tied for first in the league and we took first over from them. He scores in all our big games. He scored in the Coppa Italia final against Atalanta. Then he comes to turn. He scores against Spain. Like scores against Austria. Like when it's tied 0-0. Like all these things. And then you look at Donnarumma, who is now turns 21. Right, he's turning 22, and he finally takes Milan out of the depths of hell to the Champions League. Right, they get second in the league for once. He had an excellent season. Same thing, a guy like Matteo Pessina, like he was nobody last year. This year, all of a sudden, he comes out of the blue. He's in form, like you said. He's having a good year. Gets called up, scores twice. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I agree. I think that in form and ready for me is like the same thing, I guess. I think
Mhm.
that just Chiesa and Donnarumma just weren't. Yeah, they just weren't like they're just too young. And they weren't. They didn't have that experience yet where they were ready to win. And I think that this year the team was finally ready to win where all these players were at that point where they said like, okay, like now we can win. Like we have everything we need to win. And we come to this tournament like to win and they did. So,
No, and for sure, yeah, and I definitely see that. Obviously, that extra year does make you better.
that helps, yeah.
At the end of the day, I feel like sometimes the extra year definitely crippled some of these teams as well. I
Belgium.
think they would have been better last year,
Yeah.
yeah. But at the end of the day, it comes down to like I said, right? I see form in being ready are different, because you can always be in form, again, like Bernardo. No, sorry, like Bruno Fernandez, right?
Mm.
You can be in form, but just not ready,
Yep,
right?
that's
To
true.
to to do it, right? So that's the way I see it. But like, at the end of the day, seeing this Italy team, some players, in my opinion, basically the way I would say it, weren't in form,
Yeah.
right? In a way, right? Like, I mean, you're taking some players off. They're playing good in their league, but again, they're not playing at, like, the top 10 level or the UEFA team of the year level. But after this tournament, like, you're seeing, like, some of these players, especially on Italy, right, or especially on some of the other teams, that you're thinking, okay, well, now after you've seen them play this year, you're seeing, like, okay, these guys are, some of the best players in the
Yeah,
world. Like,
capable of doing that, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like Spinazzola, again, he wasn't on anybody who doesn't
No
watch
one, yeah,
Serie
no.
A's. You
I
know what I
only
mean? Like,
knew
I
him
didn't even know
because,
who he
yeah,
was.
I only knew him because he was on Juve, and I remember when we played against Atletico when Ronaldo scored the hat trick to bring us back from the dead. that he had the best game out of everyone on the field, but it got overshadowed because Ronaldo scored a hat trick. But the
Mhm.
whole season when he was at Juve, he was only there for 1 year because we had him for like years prior, but he was always loaned out. He finally played one season with us, and he was so good. But the problem with him is happened again. He always gets injured. He's very injury prone,
Yeah.
and we gave him away to Roma, and he's been really good there this year too. But again, yeah, like he's just a guy like guys like that where they don't get that opportunity where they're not on the big stage because they're not playing for clubs like Roma, for example, who's not in the Champions League every year. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you finally get to see him in a big tournament, and you see, wow, these guys are actually really good. The Berardi's actually good. You know, Spinazzola's
Yeah.
actually good. You never knew Barella. You never knew he was actually that good. He's really good though. You know. So yeah,
Exactly. No, and again, yeah, that's just the way I see it. I feel like again, form and being ready are two different things. These players, whether you want to see them as in form or not, I just think that they're ready now, and I feel like some of these players would have been ready last year. And the only thing is, again, the competition they would have had last year would, in my opinion, would have been a lot worse.
fair enough, brother. It's been a good
Yep,
chat.
it has. It's definitely
It's
been a
been
good
fun.
chat. Yeah,
I've enjoyed. We should do this again sometime.
we will, and hopefully anybody who sees this video will let us know what they like to see. I know this video is the one supposed to be coming out first, but
Yeah.
any other videos that they watch, hopefully they can comment and let us know what they if they liked what we said or if they didn't.
Can't ask for much more than that, man.
No,
I
we
appreciate
can't.
you having me on. It's been, like I said,
Okay,
it's been a pleasure.
it
Anything
has.
to close with, please?
No,
Put
no,
you on the
that I
spot.
basically gave everything I possibly had that I've been thinking about the last couple of days, and like I said, it's good to be back.
Okay. Good to have you back.
Thank you,
All
thank
right.
you, Nick.